Asanteni sana.
Good morning, glad to have you on board. You're watching KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara, and this is the 30th of July 2020. Glad to have you on board. Top on our stories this morning, we're still going to be keeping up on the COVID-19 status update at a time when counties have, light has been shed against the state of unpreparedness of various counties across the country. Further on, issues of, threat of corruption might just affect universal health coverage, especially in light of COVID-19, as well as looking at succession politics of 2022, following the Senate failing to come to a consensus in as far as revenue sharing formula is concerned, and how then this will affect the 2022 politics as well as the Building Bridges initiative. That and so much more in as far as news is concerned. We're also going to be shifting gears this morning and talking about sexual reproductive health rights. If we had these conversations, then would then this change the current trajectory where we're seeing and reporting an increased number of cases of teenage pregnancy? That and so much more in our edition, in this Thursday's edition of Good Morning Kenya.
Well, good morning to you. Glad you could join us this Thursday morning. On our roads, we focus on Mbagathi Way, one of those good alternative routes for those that ply Langat Road. At least this week, that is what we've been trying to look at when it comes to the traffic flow. Just trying to look at some good alternative routes, given the fact that it is quite busy, especially when this morning we take a look at Mbagathi Way and how the traffic flow will be looking like this morning. And in addition to that, being Entertainment Thursday, I'll be speaking to one my CIV, a gospel artist. She'll be talking to us about the evolution of the gospel industry, how it was then, how it is now, what are some of the changes she's noted, and also her own journey into the gospel music. Many thanks for making time. My name is Doreen Arange.
If you're tuning in, this is KBC Channel 1 and this is Good Morning Kenya. We start off in the headlines right now with just an overview of the headlines that you have on the daily newspaper issues. Starting off with the Daily Nation. The header there, political disaster are how Uhuru, Raila and Cash Law fell apart. This is in regard to what happened in the last Senate special sitting, where they failed to agree on a formula to be used in the sharing of revenue among counties and was postponed to next week, Tuesday. We'll get more details in regard to that particular story and its ripple effect in as far as the political scene is concerned. Further on, coast leaders plot to abandon ODM. This coast politics, a majority of them, members of the ODM Democratic Movement, are in the final stages of forming a party ahead of the 2022 general election. Succession politics of 2022 continues taking center stage. As well, their COVID damages patients' hearts, says new study. Now, researchers have found that those who recover from the coronavirus have abnormal diseased organs. Further on in the quest for justice there, we have a man wanted by the U.S. is seized in Mombasa. Apparently, a Kenyan sought by the authorities for poaching and trafficking narcotics. The details of this particular story are going to be coming on as we delve into getting the details of the stories that are making headlines. Back page of the Daily Nation. Kotu wades into pay row between teachers TSC. Now Workers' Umbrella Union says the ministry to convene talks over discriminatory proportions. A lot of heartbreak for NAT members this month. Thousands of teachers who are members of the NAT have been left out of promotions and a salary increase for a second year running. Meanwhile, the ununionized teachers in job group Cs2 complained that they have remained in the same job group since 2015. Issues around the teachers' pay, there was a lot of anxiety in regard to, that promise by the government to have them get more earnings. But to the disappointment of many is that those who are in the unions did not benefit from these salary increments or promotions. Looking at the second issue of this newspaper this morning that we have, we're going to be highlighting for you on Good Morning Kenya is the Star. Now, their header there goes, P.S. Masharia, where are the corona billions? Even more tragic is the lack of medical insurance cover for the sick. There's been a lot of question in regard to why aren't insurance companies covering or offering insurance for the coronavirus, but as insurance policy is concerned and law is that rarely are pandemics covered. But that's a conversation we're going to get details into in not too long. Further on, former President Kibaki has been rushed back to the Nairobi hospital. We'll get details on that and more, as well as the issue of the Senate impasse. And quoted there is Orengo Uhuru to blame for cash formula stalemate. Now, according to the legislator, the ODM has protested President Uhuru Kenyatta's unavailability to resolve the standoff in the Senate over a formula to share 316 billion allocation to counties. That's what we have as an overview of the Star front page. Now the back page, battle for Shujaa, 11 foreign coaches among the applicants for vacant Kenya Sevens job. Now that coaches from New Zealand, Australia, South Africa and UK have applied for that position. That is what we have captured on those two issues of the newspaper as far as 30th July 2020 is concerned. We'll be getting more details in regard to stories that are making headlines.
While still continuing to look at what is making headlines on the front pages of different papers, on the front page of the Standard, the main caption is still that issue of the revenue bill. Stormy House defeat stands Uhuru Raila. That is the main header this morning, just saying that it is a moment of truth and BBI's future may be at stake after rebel senators suffered fast victory against top leadership. With time running out on Uhuru and MPs getting bolder, a period of political uncertainty is slowly checking in. This story has been well fleshed out from page 6 through 7 inside the paper. That is the main caption this morning on the Standard. At the top of the paper, education, where it just says the TSC holding our 54 billion Kenyan shillings. Furious union bosses now say that. And just a question of discrimination claims, saying that not saying teachers employer operating outside the code of regulation and threatens industrial action in January. That is what we have there when it comes to matters education this morning. On the sidebar of the paper, there's a special report here just saying that trained dogs can sniff out COVID-19. That is an interesting caption. They are just continuing to say that new study by German researchers say well-trained dogs are able to distinguish between human saliva samples infected with coronavirus with a 94% success rate. That is a new development when it comes to matters COVID-19, where trained dogs can actually sniff out COVID-19. That's again another interesting caption there. When it comes to matters sports, still on the front page of the same paper, I have added weight and can't run. That is what a 3,000 meter star is saying, just continuing to say that Beatrice Chepkoech, who is the world 3,000 steeplechase champion, hopes EU will give Kenyans visas to enable them travel to Diamond League. But also, in as much as, yes, that is what she's hoping for, she's also saying that she has already added weight and she's not sure if she can run the 3,000 meters race. And that is what we have this morning on the front page of the Standard newspaper.
Now, getting into the details, or rather thick of things, we start off with the issues of COVID-19. Now, P.S. Kamau, main header there, what have we done with the COVID-19 billions? Now, a principal secretary who tested positive for COVID-19 has questioned the country's management of the pandemic and wondered what the billions spent so far have achieved. That is none other than Foreign Affairs P.S. Macharia Kamau, who tested positive for the virus last week and was forced to hand over his duties to Political and Diplomatic Secretary Ambassador Tom Amolo. Now, but Macharia regretted that the government's contact tracing has collapsed. There is no access to proper care, and even more tragic is that there is no medical insurance cover for the virus. Quoted there is that for the billions that have been spent on this campaign, it is hard to imagine that at a point of contact where the disease actually happens, there is no system to make sure that you have access to proper care, and the proper contact tracing is actually done to keep track of those who are not well or may be affected or infecting others. That is quoted there is, Macharia, and this particular excerpt was from a WhatsApp group from top official government officials there, as reported by this particular media house. Now, still focusing on matters of COVID-19 and in relation to its ripple effect. Now, a new study has indicated that those who recover from the pandemic have conditions, heart conditions. Now, the virus has been known to cause a clotting of blood and may damage the vessels in the heart, lungs, kidney, and even the brain. That is according to Dr. Dan Gikonyo. That's the latest development in as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And still keeping up with the coronavirus and looking at, how better prepared we are and even how we are adhering to the directives to stem the spread of COVID-19, is that anger after a surgeon with coronavirus refused to isolate. Now, patients and staff at the Kenyatta National Hospital are being alerted after it emerged that a surgeon who was sick with COVID has been seeing patients. Yes, you heard it right. Now, they are concerned that he may have passed on the disease to colleagues and the patients he saw at the Kenyatta National Hospital and his private clinic. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the ministry is deeply upset and disappointed in the medic. Now, if you have been seeking services from the Kenyatta National Hospital, it's a high time, and you develop this kind of symptoms, it's a high time that you checked in yourself into a medical facility. Quite disappointing there, even from the Ministry of Health, from the top elecon, they're saying that indeed that was a disappointment and deeply upsetting. This comes at a time, when just new cases were drawn. We had 454 total cases yesterday, rising the country's tally to 19,125, and the samples that was tested were 5,259 samples, and bringing the country's cumulative test to 289,759. And quoted there is that the Cabinet Secretary of Health, Cabinet Health Secretary there, that is Mutahi Kagwe, said that 340 of them were male, while 204 were female. That is the latest development in as far as COVID-19 issue is concerned. Now, COVID-19 leaves recovery patients with diseases of heart and issues of blood clotting that may damage the vessel in the heart, lungs, kidney, and even the brain. That is according to Dr. Dan Gikonyo. At the same time, upset and worrying concern after a surgeon refused to isolate even after testing for COVID-19.
Up with COVID-19 to that story that we had on the front page of the Standard, where trained dogs can sniff out virus from saliva. That is, again, like I had mentioned, one interesting header. But just saying that after a few days of training, the detection dogs can sniff out COVID infections, and this is according to a new study which was published on July 23rd. And which was piloted by the University of Veterinary Medicine Hanover, the Hanover Medical School, and the German Armed Forces. Now, this study established that if well-trained, dogs were able to discriminate between human saliva samples infected with COVID and non-infected samples with a 94% overall success. Looks like a huge success there, where trained dogs can be able to sniff out virus from saliva, tell the one that is COVID positive and the one that is not is COVID negative. But still on COVID, at the bottom end of the paper, panic as 2 doctors at referral hospital test positive of this virus. And this is just panic which gripped in Kakamega County Referral Hospital after 2 doctors at the facility tested positive for COVID-19. The medics include a lead surgeon, 2 general doctors, and other specialists at the blood center. These are the ones that tested positive for this virus. And according to a source at the hospital, some medics are working without PPEs, and this could have contributed to that spread. Just saying that we have voiced these concerns about the unavailability of the protective equipment, but nothing has been done yet. We know where the problem with the infections come from, and if nothing is done urgently, then the whole facility may end up being closed. That is what one of the doctors said there, that the problem is actually lack of proper PPEs, and we've had this concern time and time and again, at least since the first case was announced in the country, where health workers in the country across different counties just complaining of lack of proper equipment. And this is a case of 2 doctors who have tested positive because of lack of good protective gear, saying that yes, they've raised their concerns, but nothing has been done yet, and urging the county government at least to do something to help protect the health workers in that specific county. Now, coming to the sidebar of the paper, and still on matters COVID-19, this is just a report that was tabled by the World Health Organization to the country, where WHO now tells Kenya to improve in COVID war, and the global health body has now spelled out 12 key areas where Kenya needs to improve on in order to win the fight against this disease, as the country yesterday reported 12 deaths and 544 new cases. Now, this was just a letter from the WHO country representative, that is Dr. Rudy, to the Health CS, Mutahi Kagwe, while commending Kenya's efforts, issues recommendations on wearing of face masks, public gatherings, public spaces, healthcare workers, public transport, testing and funding in counties. So that is what was spelled out in the letter. If at all we have to improve on the war against COVID-19.
Now, still keeping up with matters COVID, but now looking at the devolved units, is that police in Kiambu are in pursuit of 6 individuals who escaped from the Karuri police station in Kiamba area of Kiambu last night. Now, the 6 suspects, who include 5 remandees and a convict, successfully broke free from confinement after cutting apart the cell toilet window. Now, according to authorities, is that the escapees are among persons who had been tested for COVID-19, and their results are yet to be released. Beatrice Gatonye-Ngetich has more details on that.
A number of crime suspects who had been confined at a police station in Kiambu successfully pulled off an escape from the cells through the toilet window last night. While confirming the incident, Kiambaa Sub-County Police Commander Michael Moshiri disclosed that the detention break came to the fore after a commotion that attracted the attention of the officers on duty, who upon investigation found the metal bars in one of the ventilation windows cut and left on the floor. A head count conducted on those who had been detained at the time established that out of the 26 prisoners who were in custody, 6 of them were missing. What's worrying is revelation that the escapees are among persons who had been tested for COVID-19 and their results are yet to be known.
Hawa wamekaa hapa karibu miezi 3 sasa. So uchunguzi tayari umeanza kudhibitisha hasa ni kitu gani ambayo ilisababisha ile. So tutaachia yule afisa ambaye amepewa hiyo jukumu tuweze hasa kutathmini kitu gani ambayo kiliendelea.
In the meantime, Mombasa Governor Hassan Ali Joho is asking the coastal residents to strictly adhere to the Ministry of Health protocols on the containment of COVID-19. According to the Mombasa County Chief, any success in the fight against the virus requires strict personal responsibility. Speaking while on a tour of Likoni constituency, Joho sensitized traders operating in the newly commissioned Shika Adabu market on the importance of hygiene, even as he decried the economic impact of COVID-19 in the region.
Mimi nataka niseme namna hii, vita vya COVID tutafanikiwa na tunaendelea kufanikiwa.
Elsewhere, Baringo is the latest county to record positive COVID-19 cases after 5 people were reported to have contracted the disease. While confirming the cases, Baringo Governor Stanley Kiptis said the county has initiated random tests targeting hotels, markets, bus stops where the 5 cases are suspected to have made contact with other members of the public. The governor also appealed to the national government to relax procurement regulations, especially on matters of urgency, as the county is yet to procure ICU beds.
We must actually stick to the law, the PMF Act. That's what we are doing. And the procedure is tedious. It takes some time. There are 17 steps for that. So, because of this emergency, and it is emergency, what we are appealing is to the national government that when it comes to such scenarios, there should be a procedure that actually addresses this scenario.
And Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandago says the county has met the bed capacity set by the national government. He further noted that his administration has put in place sufficient efforts in an endeavor to take care of COVID-19 patients.
Kama county, sisi tumejiambia, we want to do everything possible to make sure that our economy is not locked. We want to do everything possible to make sure everybody is going about their business and able to earn their livelihood under the new normal, kwa kuzingatia ile protocols ya Ministry of Health na unaendelea na biashara yako.
Beatrice Getonyingetich, Channel 1 News.
Away from COVID-19, let's come to the revenue sharing formula, which is one story that has clearly been dominating our papers throughout this entire week. Questions over senators open defiance of Uhuru Raila in county cash vote, where the vote in the Senate, where a majority of senators on Tuesday openly defied President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga to vote against the formula, has now exposed the duo's soft political underbelly. The epic vote has also put in sharp focus the new leadership of Majority Leader, that is Samuel Pogisho, and Majority Whip Irungu Kangata, who lost their first real challenge that was in itself a sort of baptism by fire. Also, this article has well spelled out the members that voted in yes and the one that voted in no. Still on the same breath, intrigues at play ahead of key decision as Kangata falters, where it just says that political intrigues involving allies of President Kenyatta, his deputy William Ruto, and opposition leader Raila Odinga played out before, during, and after the debate on the third basis of revenue sharing formula for the counties. Sources at the Senate said allies of the DP, especially from Rift Valley, split their vote, with some supporting Irungu Kangata, who's the majority whip, a proposal, while others opposing it. The plan initially was to have some supporting the colleagues from Mount Kenya region who have been clamoring for the one man, one vote, 1 shilling proposal, and others to stand with their colleagues from counties losing on the revenue allocation. So that is what is just happening when it comes to the issue of the revenue sharing formula.
Now, still looking at that issue, we have quite a header there. Actually, on the front page, political disaster, how Uhuru Raila cash law fell apart. Now, confusion is at a parliamentary group meeting that never was, hands-off leaders, lack of a united approach, a series of amendments and calls to defer the motion, and the grandstanding saw the Tuesday debate adjourned before the formula could be enacted. But the day just started on a wrong footing, especially for the divided Jubilee House after planned parliamentary group meeting to whip the senators back to the formula was aborted, with majority leader away on a failed trip to Tanzania. We're talking about Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio. So basically, is that Kang'ata, Pogisio, and to confront the biggest test in dispute over county clash plan. This was their main decision as the new, office holders in that regard, but it failed, having to be postponed to the next week, on Tuesday, actually. Now, the question is, why did senators fail to unlock the stalemate on revenue formula? So much has been said, and quoted there is Minority Leader James Orengo, who said that, or accused Mr. Kenyatta of being aloof at the time. The House needed guidance in the revenue impasse. He said, "We have lost our heads. We would not be here if the president was accessible. I'm not saying it for me, but for the country." Quoted there is Minority Leader James Orengo there. Now, so bad was it for Kang'ata and Pogisio in the day in office when the new entrants in the House leadership, remember this comes after the purge of those who were allied to Deputy President William Ruto. Now, the incumbents, or rather their deputies, that is Deputy Majority Leader Fatuma Dalo of Isiolo and Deputy Majority Whip Faria Ali, nominated and voted against the motion too. In retaliation is that Kang'ata is now promising sanction against his colleagues for what he says is going against the government position. Will this threat see the light of day? Well, that is still ongoing, since he's threatening to turn the tide against the senators whose counties were bound to benefit from the third basis revenue sharing formula but voted against his proposal by touring their respective regions and informing the electorate of their transgressions. That is, our reporter Kevin Washira puts that issue into perspective, where at least 7 senators voted against Kang'ata's bill, which sought to provide a 2-year window before counties begin receiving funds based on population density.
Following Senate's decision to reject the amendment on the revenue sharing formula by Majority Whip Irungu Kang'ata on Tuesday, it is likely counties will share the revenue on basis of previous formula, which aimed at minimizing development gap. This, however, will happen if they adopt the amendment on the Finance Committee's report, sponsored by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, seeking to retain status quo until county revenue share increases. But as counties await the Senate's decision, proponents of the one-man, one-shilling formula are working on a comeback, as well as punitive measures against those believed to have betrayed their cause. At least 7 senators whose counties were set to benefit from the formula voted against the government's amendment, sponsored by Majority Whip.
Mahali kama Kakamega, mahali kama Kajiado, Machakos, Lamu, mahali kama Kisii. Hizo ni county ambazo zinataka zipewe pesa nyingi mno ili ziweze kuinuka, kwani ziko na pressure kubwa sana ya wananchi kuwa wengi.
The senators include Kakamega's Cleophas Malala, whose county was to get an additional 1 billion shilling, Nairobi's Johnson Sakaja, whose county was to get an additional 1.2 billion shillings, and Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet. Other senators who rejected additional monies include Kajiado's Philip Mpaye, Lamu's Anwar Loitiptip, and Kisii's Professor Sam Ongeri.
Chief whips have no opinions. They only bring government business. So every time you see a chief whip doing anything, he's doing it on behalf of the government. What I can tell you is that senators who come from certain counties, they need to remember the public pressure on public facilities. I know Nairobi has a huge pressure, huge problems arising of being underfunded, the county government being underfunded. Places like Magikomba, Kawangware, places like Githurai, they need adequate water, they need good roads. Places like Kajiado, they need adequate roads.
The Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kang'ata now says they will move around the 7 counties to explain to the electorate that they will be missing additional funds as a result of acts and omissions by their senators.
There are many ways, of course. The people from, I want to tell the people of places like Kajiado, places like Lamu, people, the places like Nairobi County. Yeah, it's them to give us the way forward. We are still thinking about them. We believe resources about the people.
Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
All right, top security organ to discuss City Hall was, that is again another caption we have there, but was also on the front page of the Standard. And Interior CS Fred Matiang'i yesterday said he will seek the guidance of a top security organ chaired by the president over the troubles at the Nairobi County Assembly. And this is just after what happened the other day with the MCAs of the County Assembly trying to remove Beatrice Elachi. But Matiang'i says the assembly located at City Hall has now turned out to be a battle zone and is now a major security challenge, or it posed a security challenge. The CS announced that as a stopgap measure, he had now asked the IG, Hilary Mutyambai, to investigate the number of gun holders in the assembly and immediately have them disarmed. He also further on says that this decision was actually reached after police officers who were deployed to deal with chaos were witnessed at the assembly on Tuesday recovered at least 14 guns from some of the suspects. You also have the image of the Interior CS Fred Matiang'i there, as well as one of the senior security officer. And this is just what the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i is saying, that the police officers now need to be disarmed. And this just comes after what happened at City Hall with the MCAs, saying that the County Assembly has now turned into a battle zone.
Is it a battle zone or just a case of people behaving badly? Now, Matiang'i has condemned the police action and directed that officers to follow the law during such situations. Quoted there is that it is painful to see a Kenyan, regardless of status, being beaten by police officers in uniform. That should not happen in Kenya. We are humans and should be better than this, says Dr. Matiang'i. Now, he told the police to find an alternative way of dealing with such matters without necessarily resorting to violence. This comes at a time when the general public has been, up in arms over police brutality. Now, what was witnessed in the County Assembly there, bringing that to light. Now, still keeping up with what the Interior Cabinet Secretary is doing, that is Dr. Matiang'i, is that the AG must verify court directives. Now, the police will not implement court orders that have not been approved by the Office of the Attorney General. And you ask why such a move? It seems that, police sources say that this was necessitated by the prevalence of forged court orders. More to give more perspective on what the Interior Cabinet Secretary has been up to is a report by Gladys Mungai.
Tuesday morning and the Nairobi County Assembly precincts would resemble a combat zone as chaos reigned supreme, with a section of MCAs forcing their way into the building in an attempt to force Speaker Beatrice Elachi out of office. The ensuing commotion rekindling memories of the infamous City Hall that was often characterized by violent altercations. The events and the subsequent attack of a female member of County Assembly appearing to have angered Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who now wants staff at the Assembly disarmed forthwith.
And I've asked the Inspector General of Police today, with the regional security team in Nairobi, to disarm everyone around that county assembly. Anyone who holds firearms, there could be people. We already collected 14 guns. Let's tell the public the truth. The 14 guns we collected from around that environment, the level of criminality that has gone on, I suspect there could probably be more firearms. So Mr. Njeka and the regional security team investigate and find out whether there are any other people who could be armed other than the 14 that we withdrew. And let them tell the Firearm Licensing and Control Board to cancel all the licenses. We withdraw those firearms from them because they might do something unusual. Then let's go to the National Security Advisory Committee, follow the path of the law, and request to be guided on what we are going to do with policing the County Assembly of Nairobi. Because enough is now finally enough. We cannot go on this way.
Speaking during the launch of a book documenting Kenya's journey in police reforms, authored by the former Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet, Matiang'i at the same time took issue with the section of police officers who appear to have used excessive force in their efforts to restore order.
We will not shirk or hide from responsibility. Some of these things, we have to be very sincere about them. It is not right and it is not fair that we subject members of the public or people, we are supposed to lead to that kind of treatment. I know, it can be frustrating and sometimes it can be very painful. But we shouldn't get there. And
to equip our officers with new knowledge, owing to the very rapidly evolving threats to national security. And as you know, that at this point in time, we are grappling with a very serious one, very serious one, and in my view, that amounts to almost an existential threat to our well-being, to our being as a people, and that is COVID-19.
Matiang'i is saying it was unfortunate that the government has been forced to deploy heavy contingent of security officers at the Nairobi County Assembly when residents of Nairobi County needed the security services too.
25 to 30% of our deployment in security in the CBD is around the County Assembly of Nairobi. And everybody can see. I don't know why we are so pretentious and hypocritical. Tunadanganyana hapa, we are just lying around to each other here. That is not an institution that deliberates on anything. They are constantly fighting. It's a war zone. So when things happen, now we are dealing with a crisis here, which could actually be a reputational crisis for us as security sector people. I don't condone, and I've said this clearly, I do not condone any violent handling of members of the public or leaders. But a time has come for us to be honest, to be very sincere, and speak to each other as responsible people. I mean, are we going to get a contingent of GSU and ask Mr. Kanja to station a contingent of GSU outside the county assembly? Because they're constantly fighting, it's war and so on and so forth.
Police to beat such an innocent lady, it is against human rights, it's against civil liberties, and it is against the law. So I want to ask Mutiambai, wherever he is, the Inspector General, to make sure those officers are arrested and locked in. And it must be an example of inserting discipline to our officers, because they cannot be allowed to behave like that.
The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has already contacted some of the people who were present during the chaos in a preliminary inquiry that seeks to establish the role played by police officers who are deployed at the premises during the fracas. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Police brutality. Let's look at another issue now, and to rather a sad story where pioneer Kiswahili poet Mzee Abdallah Mwasimba dies. This is just Kenyans from all walks of life, especially Kiswahili lovers, jammed social media yesterday to pay tribute to the veteran poet, that is Mzee Abdallah Mwasimba, who passed on Tuesday. The 83-year-old poet rose to fame as his poems got published in print media and his recordings ran on TV stations, mostly in the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Farewell, Mzee Mwasimba. Let's now look at matters education, which is again another story that was on the front page of the paper, which is that just saying that if this discrimination by TSC won't stop, we will strike. That is what NAT is now warning, just saying that the Kenya National Union of Teachers has now accused the Teachers Service Commission of discriminating against teachers and refusing to pay them the 54 billion approved by Parliament. Now, the Teachers Union also reprimanded the Commission for contempt of court and managing teachers outside the codes of regulation and ethics. NAT continues to say that it is contesting the case of 100,000 teachers who this month have missed out on a pay rise by TSC implementation, implemented the third and fourth phases of the 2017 CBA. And now what they're threatening is that if its members, if nothing will be done, then its members will resort to industrial action and boycott classes in January when basic institutions are set to reopen. So that is what NAT is saying, that their members have not been paid, and they're threatening to actually go on strike if schools reopen in January the way it was mentioned.
Now, still keeping up with that discussion is that now KOTU has waded into that pay row between teachers, TSC. Now, KOTU Secretary General there, Francis Atwoli, has expressed worry over the worsening industrial dispute between NAT and TSC, which he should be resolved once and for all. Now, indeed, if left unaddressed, the situation is likely to degenerate into a serious threat to the country's industrial peace, says Mr. Atwoli. Now, at the same time, NAT yesterday asked the TSC to stop sowing unnecessary confusion on the execution of the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement pay structure by seeking to abolish the recognition of teachers' new academic qualifications. Now, NAT Secretary General there, Wilson Sossion, says that it said that NAT is attempting to abolish the schemes of service as a basis for promotion, is an attempt to abolish the recognition of the new academic qualifications which teachers have attained after spending a lot of their resources and studies. Now, in regard to that particular row, our reporter spent time just looking at, the details, in-depth details of the Collective Bargaining Act, and now what it means, especially for those teachers who are unionized or ununionized in this regard. Caroline Kamau reports, sorry.
Solidarity forever.
Another storm is brewing in the education sector as the teachers' umbrella union NAT and the teachers' employer TSC are yet again at loggerheads. The spat between the two sides this time sparked off by the alleged existence of two different payrolls at the Teachers Service Commission as at close of July.
Thoroughly heartbreaking for the teachers of this country. Wakati unafunja roho za walimu, wakati mwajiri anafunja roho za walimu ambao wataingia darasani tutakapoanza mwaka ujao, mnasikiaje ama mnachukuliaje jambo hilo?
What's more, NAT is protesting exclusion of some of its members from benefiting in the third and fourth phases of the collective bargaining agreement, despite the CBA being signed, deposited in court and a certificate issued, as well as Parliament setting aside 54 billion shillings to finance the pay to all teachers.
Jambo la utekelezwaji wa mazungumzo hayo limekuwa kisungumkuti na limeleta utata mwingi katika ualimu. Na tunataka kuambia mwajiri kama hachasoma asome. Mkataba wa mazungumzo ambao uliwekwa sahihi na vyama vyote viwili ulikuwa na tanzu mbalimbali zilizozungumza na kuandaa yale yote ambayo zote tulichikita kwayo na tukaweka sahihi.
Speaking at a press conference earlier Wednesday, outspoken NAT Secretary General Wilson Sossion maintained that the CBA recognizes both the Code of Regulations for Teachers and the Code of Conduct and Ethics for Teachers as instruments of governing teachers and the TSC, and that this cannot be ignored. Sossion is now calling on Ministry of Labour Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui to intervene on the matter, noting that NAT shall not relent in its efforts to push for the welfare of all teachers in the country, irrespective of their affiliation.
And the court directed the employer to go and sit, reform the schemes of services and align them to the pay structure. But instead of doing that, it went and started war with NAT to finish NAT. The agenda here is not even complying with any law. It is to finish NAT, it is to silence NAT, so that we never question and they can do things the way they want.
Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
And away from that, teachers' disputes, let's move to the corridors of justice this morning to some of the stories that have been highlighted when it comes to our courts. Just a man stabs his wife to death after thief. That is one caption that we are having there when it comes to matters crime. And a nurse died after she was stabbed 13 times by her husband on Monday night. This is in Gilgil. Their house help saying that Josephine Wangari, who is a nurse at Gilgil Hospital, and her husband had quarreled before they went to bed. But now the police are holding the husband, who Gilgil Sub-County Police Commander John Onditi said drove himself to the police station yesterday. So after the incident on Monday, the husband drove himself to the police station on Wednesday, which was yesterday. But now they made the house up just saying that she had the woman wailing in the bedroom, and at around 4 a.m. the room was suspiciously silent, attracting the maid who found her lying dead. And that is the nurse, the wife of the man who was now found dead. And this is after the man stabbed the wife to death 13 times just after a domestic quarrel.
Now, still keeping up with that issue, it has also found its way on the Star this morning, and the header reads, 3 murders in hospital compound terrifying Gilgil. Now, so far, killings in 12 hours, pandemic stress blamed for violence against women and children. You know, residents of Gilgil sub-county staff quarters are grappling with 3 bizarre murders in 12 hours. Children were poisoned with a deadly orange juice, and a nurse was stabbed to death. Now, the children were allegedly killed by a woman neighbor who gave them a poisoned orange on Monday evening, and she has been arrested. The motive still unknown. A nurse killed was killed in the same staff quarters on Tuesday morning after being stabbed 13 times. That's a story that Doreen has just highlighted there for you. And according to the officials within Naivasha, says that in 1 month we have lost 6 minors in Naivasha and Gilgil, and 2 women have been murdered in the same period, while tens of others have been physically abused. That is the statistics, grim statistics there from Gilgil. Is it a case of, you know, pandemic stress, or is this just people who are, you know, out to just, you know, settle their own differences using violence? Well, this comes at a time when also the President of Kenyatta has tasked, you know, various institutions to just understand, to come up with a report as to why we are having an increase in gender-based violence as well as a rise in teenage pregnancy. So as we're looking at stories that have made headlines in the corridors of justice as prepared by Serafina Roby, that's a question that we're asking ourselves. And later on, we're going to be talking about the sexual reproductive rights and how then having these conversations might change the trajectory that we find ourselves in. Increased teenage pregnancies, female genital mutilation, even if it has been prohibited, is still happening. Gender-based violence, whether male or female. This is the time we can have these conversations. So do keep your feedback coming. That's the question we're asking. Do you think that if we have these conversations, then we can actually change the trajectory we find ourselves in? But before we get to that informative segment of this particular broadcast this Thursday, how about we get that detailed report of what has been happening in the corridors of justice as prepared by Serafina Roby.
Part of the prosecution team in the 55 million shillings Rio Olympic scandal will Wednesday inform anti-corruption magistrate Elizabeth Juma of possible exposure to COVID-19. The development coming after one of the officers they came into contact with allegedly contracted the virus. Juma forced to adjourn the defense hearings in the case where former sports CS Hassan Wario is among 6 suspects accused of embezzling the funds. The hearing will continue from the 17th of August, with 3 suspects taken to the dock.
Even though the exposed person tests negative, the proper protocol still is maintained that that person keeps social distance from the public by isolating from the public during the possible inoculation period.
Meanwhile, the defense hearing of 3 senior officials from Wajir County alleged to have illegally withdrawn 26.1 million shillings from the county coffers kicked off on Wednesday. One of the accused, Daud Abdullahi, who also faces separate counts of abuse of office and failure to manage public property, took to the stand denying all the charges leveled against him. Meanwhile, Kibeti Ego has been charged with publishing false information alleging that Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i had been admitted at the ICU battling COVID-19, contrary to Section 23 of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act, has been released on a cash bail of 50,000 shillings with an alternative bond of 100,000 shillings and a surety of similar amount. The accused has also been barred from publishing any information on social media about the applicant and his family.
The accused person is barred from making any kind of comments against the complainant in this matter in any media until the conclusion of this case. And the case will be mentioned on the 12th of August virtually for pre-trial directions.
The case will be mentioned on the 12th of August. Finally, Simon Oseko, who was assaulted by a Chinese restaurant owner, has filed a petition at the Labour Court demanding that Chinese nationals accused of orchestrating the attack be brought back in Kenya for prosecutions. Through his lawyer, the former waiter wants the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior and Coordination of National Government to repatriate the accused back into the country and prosecute the owner of the restaurant. Among the respondents served in the petition are the Inspector General of Police, the Attorney General and the People's Republic of China through its embassy in Nairobi. For Scales of Justice Channel 1 News, I'm Serafina Robi.
A sad situation, sad scenario, and it is just a conversation that I was having with my colleague Ray before we went on air, that what really could make someone do such kind of thing, stab your spouse in that manner, and the countless number of times that one can do that. But again, we just hope that justice can be able to be served to the victims that get to go through this. But away from that, let's move to the counties. Now look at some of the stories that are making headlines when it comes to the counties this morning, starting with Nairobi. Evictions frozen till after COVID. That is one caption we are having there, where the government will not execute any court orders seeking to evict people from disputed parcels of land until the COVID pandemic is over. In addition to that, all court orders issued to the police will have to be vetted and verified before they can be executed. That is one statement that came from the Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, saying that no court order that is about evicting people will actually take place until the COVID pandemic is over. Still sticking with Nairobi, a retailer gives 5 million shillings food to aid the needy. That is still happening in Nairobi County, where Carrefour and the Kenya Red Cross will now distribute over 10,000 food hampers to families in need. The hampers will comprise of essential items such as maize meal, rice, ndengu, and baking flour. The chain is also encouraging its customers to support vulnerable families affected by the COVID pandemic by donating food hampers when shopping at any of its 8 stores. And like I keep mentioning, at least over the past few weeks, when you look at our papers, we have not missed any story of how different sectors are just coming to assist the government to continue helping Kenyans in different capacities to fight against COVID-19. And this is in regards to at least looking for ways in which they can be able to assist by distributing foods to the most vulnerable persons and to the ones who have really been affected so much by this pandemic. Now, coming to Baringo County, this is just a story of locals urged to observe health rules, where Governor Stanley Kiptis has now called on residents to unite and end the spread of the deadly virus. Kiptis saying that the solution towards to addressing this pandemic lies with individual, just as it was mentioned the other day, that it is now an individual responsibility. And he says that people should now adhere to all the Ministry of Health guidelines and all the protocols, if at all we would be able to fight this pandemic. Again, just reiterating that fact that it is now an individual responsibility to help curb and fight COVID-19.
Now, before we get a detailed report from Sefin in regard to stories making headlines in the counties, is that reports indicated that the former president, Mwai Kibaki, was readmitted to the Nairobi hospital, and sources say that he has undergone tests to establish the cause of pain. Now, the former head of state is said to have been driven back to the Nairobi hospital on Monday. and was admitted to the VIP wing where he's currently receiving treatment. While there was no one from his family to comment on what is ailing the former president, who is credited for a sterling development record during his tenure, and sources within the hospital said that Kibaki was being treated for a similar condition that had taken him there previously. We'll be keeping tabs in regard to that particular story, remembering that Kibaki is fondly remembered because of his sterling performance in as far as development is concerned. Quick recovery to you, sir. Now, looking at matters, counties and stories that have made headlines in the counties, that the Kenya Forest Service has issued a 14-day ultimatum to those who have settled illegally in the Aberdare forest to vacate or face forceful eviction. Details of this and other stories in a report compiled by reporter Safin Ache.
Residents of Maimahiu in Naivasha are blaming a Chinese construction company operating a quarry in the area for destruction of their property. They are accusing China Wui Company of using substandard explosives, which they say has led to collapsing of buildings, health complications, and death of livestock.
I've seen a house where a stone has come from the roof and fallen into the house. All this is causing a lot of damage. We have been told of pregnant mothers who have had problems after these very loud blasts, and they suspect it could be a bomb.
Elsewhere, the Kenya Forest Service has issued a 14-day ultimatum to those who have settled illegally in the Aberdare forest to vacate or face forceful eviction. Speaking during a tree planting session at Mombo area at the foot of the Aberdare Ranges during celebrations to mark this year's World Nature Conservation Day, Conservator of Forests in charge of Nyandarua County, Stephen Karega, warned that those who have allegedly grabbed forests within Murai and Kirima areas in the Aberdare will also be prosecuted.
The people are very much okay. We talk with them. They know they are within the forest, and the forest belongs to them. So what we are going to do is just to appeal to them to move. We have given them about 14 to move out.
Meanwhile, residents of Rusingeti area in Kikuyu constituency have decried what they say is increased criminality in the region. The residents say criminal gangs have been wreaking havoc in the area, with the latest being the murder of a secondary school girl.
Tulimpata huko karibu na Mahidi, alikuwa ametolewa nguo, alikuwa amekatakatwa uso, alikuwa ametolewa macho yake.
And residents of Lamu have been urged to cooperate with security officers operating in the area to help curb numerous cases of attacks from armed groups in the area, while acknowledging that inadequate resources remains a major challenge in carrying out extensive patrols to secure locals and those traveling in the area. Lamu County Commander Moses Mureithi noted that community collaboration is a key pillar in the fight against terrorism.
Tana River karibu yote iko na rami na other areas, lakini kule kwa sababu ya barabara bado zinatengezwa, ndio unaona tuko na those challenges. Speed magari zaendi inabidi iende kidogo. Kwa hivyo nafikiri siku ile tutapata rami ambayo hiyo area ambayo inatengezwa na Ichiang ishe, tutarudi kwa hiyo kufikiria maneno ya patrols.
In the meantime, Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok is calling for fresh dialogue between members of two warring communities living in Olposimoru area following fresh skirmishes that left one person dead. Barchok says constant altercations between members of the two communities has only acted to derail development in the region.
Kama ni mambo ya mashamba, tunaweza ongea. Kama kuna mambo mengine ambayo hatuelewi, tuongee, lakini tusiingize siasa kwa dispute ambayo pengine iko kati ya the two communities to an extent that we incite our people to fight.
Finally, a section of leaders in Wajir have dismissed attempts by area woman representative Fatuma Gedi to have the county dissolved. The group that largely comprises of elders and ward representatives instead want Gedi and area senator Ali Abdullahi Ibrahim to settle their political differences with the county governor and desist from resorting to far-reaching resolutions.
Really condemn in the strongest term possible the reckless utterances the women rep is doing. And actually, you should not destroy a whole county in the pretext of personal interest that you have. It's a very unfortunate matter.
First out as KQ fires staff, where the national carrier Kenya Airways on Tuesday started laying off its employees in what is termed a right-sizing exercise that is expected to be concluded on September 30th. Began on Tuesday, expected to be concluded in September. Now, while the layoffs are expected to affect employees across the board, the first in the firing line are some 800 workers that are only 6 months old. You can imagine, only 6 months old. The carrier having been hired in January, and now they are being fired now in July. The airline is also fighting to stay afloat as it continues to suffer the effects of COVID pandemic that at some point grounded nearly all its operations. Now that is what is happening when it comes to the national carrier KQ. Yes, at least they're back on board, but laying off some of its employees, and as of now 800 have so far been laid off. The process is expected to end at least on September 30th. Now to a rather different story. Rents drop on low occupancy level. That is again another header we are having there, where the retail space has been the hardest hit sector in property market in the last 6 months, as the value and rents for prime residential properties continued to fall. This is what a new report is now showing. That is the Knight Frank report, where it attributes fall to oversupply and the COVID-19 pandemic. That is the latest report when it comes to the retail space and the renting area, just attributing this to oversupply in the market, and again the effects and the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, still keeping up with matters business is that the Central Bank of Kenya has held its benchmark lending rate at 7% for the third month in a row on Wednesday, citing, the policy measures that have been intended with having the intended effect on the economy. Now, the bank has also announced that the loans amounting to 844 million shillings have been restructured as at the end of June. Detailed report by O'Brien Kimani.
In its last sitting on June 25th, the Monetary Policy Committee retained the commercial bank rate at 7%, saying the accommodative policy stance adopted in the last 3 months was having the desired effect on the economy. The bank has left the benchmark rate untouched since April, when the rate was cut by 25 basis points as part of the emergency measures to soften the impact of COVID-19 on the Kenyan economy. The committee has announced that total loans amounting to 844 billion shillings have been restructured of the total banking sector loan book of 2.9 trillion shillings by the end of June this year. Of these, personal loans amounting to 240 billion shillings, representing 30% of the gross loans book to this sector, was renegotiated in the period. A total of 604 billion shillings had been restructured, mainly in trade at 23%, real estate at 19.5%, while the manufacturing had 14% of its loan book restructured. The bank further says out of the 35.2 billion shillings that was released by the lowering of the cash reserve ratio in March, 31.4 billion shillings or 89.1% has been used to support lending to the tourism, real estate, trade and manufacturing sectors. In the 12 months to June 2020, private sector credit grew by 7.6%, where growth was recorded in manufacturing at 12.3%, transport and communications 15%, and consumer durables at 15.2%. The committee is expected to meet next month to review the market conditions.
We're still keeping up with the matters business this morning, and KenGen donates water tanks, where the power producer has now donated water tanks to the community around its 7 Fox Dam, where more than 24,000 individuals will now benefit from this initiative, which is aimed at helping those living around the farms. So again, to just curb the effects of the spread of COVID-19 rather, and the main reason as to why they're doing this is so as to be able to maintain personal hygiene. That is what the farm says there. But also, in addition to that, they have also been able to donate soaps and hand sanitizers to the residents living around the area, again, to just be able to maintain personal hygiene in that around those specific areas.
Focusing at a time when Kenya is really grappling with the issue of food security, is that the newly inaugurated warehouse receipt system council has been charged with first tracking the development and establishment of the warehouse receipt system for agricultural commodities produced in Kenya to ensure efficiency, effectiveness and integrity. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says the operationalization of the system will go a long way in boosting investments in the agriculture value chain.
The agriculture sector transformation and growth strategy identifies creation of a warehouse receipt system as a key intervention to improve commodity storage, reduce average post-harvest losses, curb value chain inefficiencies, increase financial earnings to farmers, traders and service providers in the agriculture commodity trade. According to Agriculture CS Peter Munya, the warehouse receipt will lead to the development of aggregation and offtake centers across the country.
The warehouse receipt confers benefits that include: 1, creating flexibility in the sale process, as farmers are not forced to sell in distress at harvest when prices are low. They have a choice to wait for more favorable prices at a later time. 2, encouraging increased lending to the agricultural sector by pledging the receipt, which reflects the value of the commodity.
Initially, the council will focus on implementing the warehouse receipt system for coffee, tea, rice, beans, green grams, and wheat, but progressively expand to cover other agricultural commodities. The system is to be ready ahead of the main harvest season in October 2020. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Moving away from business, let's delve deeper into sports, where Gor Mahia's wait for title continues, just saying that the team will have to wait longer before bringing down their beer-drinking horns and drums to celebrate a record-extending KPL title. And this is just after Sports Disputes Tribunal on Tuesday extended interim orders staying the decision by Football Kenya Federation boss Nick Mwendwa to declare Kogalo KPL champions via a tweet on April 30th. Now, Kogalo had been declared league champions in April, but the league body disputed that move, and now they'll have to wait longer before bringing down their beer-drinking horns and drums to celebrate a record-extending KPL title.
I know Gor Mahia happens to be my team, but we'll digress and focus on matters athletics. We'll weather that storm as Gor Mahia. Now, organizers of the Hercules meeting have confirmed the participation of 4 more world champions for the Wonder Diamond League meeting to be held on the 14th of August in Monaco. Now, the world steeplechase champion Beatrice Chepkoech will return to the scene of her world record, clocking 8 minutes and 44 seconds from 2 years ago. Now, the Kenya's last race was a victory was at the World Athletics Indoor meeting in Dar es Salaam in February, where she clocked the Kenyan indoor 15,000 meters record of 4 minutes and 2 seconds. Other world champions who will compete at the meeting are the World 800 meters champion and 2019 Diamond League winner Bonavan Brazier, World 110-meter hurdles champion Grant Holloway, and double Olympic sprint champion Elaine Thompson. Now, still keeping up with matters of sports, now tying them to the issue of tourism, where the Kenya Tourism Board has signed marathon world record holder Olympic champion Eliud Kipchoge as Magical Kenya Destination Ambassador. Now, the move comes in the wake of staggered reopening of the tourism sector following COVID-19 disruptions that saw a number of tourist sites close shop due to travel restrictions. But now, remember, you can get further details in regard to that story and so much more that we have highlighted. We take a short break, but in return, we're going to be focusing on sexual reproductive health rights. Are you aware of such rights? And if having this conversation is going to change the current circumstances where the country is grappling with an increased number of teenage pregnancies as well as gender-based violence and FGM. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. And now, in these difficult times, free educational shows are helping our children learn from home.
Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako. Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world. On the next episode of
Wise men say only fools rushing.
Wewe huna mke, suti ke kunyang'anya mke kabisa. Ni wami naanza yo, tafuta mke mwingine. Babu! Babu kuja.
Tujali kazi zenu
Wajune, kama ndege wa angani, hawalimi na washibi, na wanakula na wanakunywa.
Washa tutoke hapa nje, tupigwe na miale ya jua, alafu tujie kwa nyumba, tukule miujiza. Nimekujia rent.
Ai.
Babe, sumsot tu aende.
Unajua Jobu, hujui kuishi na watu hata kidogo. Mwezi wa kwanza na umezidi kulipa nyumba. Jobu, how?
Mimi na wewe tunaweza saidiana.
Tunaweza kusaidiana. Acha nikuletee juice. Pacha.
The date for the FA Cup final is set, and so are we, as Arsenal and Chelsea face off again on the 1st of August at Wembley. The All London affair will be broadcast live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 this Saturday from 7:30 p.m.
Cesar Azpilicueta again for Giroud. Oh, and it's found a way through.
Heads up. It is a showdown worth your wait.
At exactly 8 minutes past 8, time for our first link. We look at Mbagathi Way. This is just past after leaving the T-Mall roundabout off Langata Road using Mbagathi Way as you head over to the city center. And also the reason as to why I said this morning we'll be looking at this specific route is because it serves as a very, very good alternative route, especially for those that use Langata Road and you're heading over to the CBD and you do not want to do the traffic around this area. Just past T-Mall, the traffic sometimes tends to be unbearable and goes all the way to Nyayo Stadium roundabout, all the way through Uhuru Highway as you head over to the city center. So this is why Mbagathi Way just comes in and serves as a good alternative route for those that apply this specific route as you head over to your businesses. Now, just beginning from where this road starts, this is around the T-Mall roundabout. Around there, actually just looking at the roundabout, not looking so bad, and this early morning hour. So yes, traffic has begun to slightly build up, but at least it is quite manageable there, and that is what that color is indicating for us. So traffic beginning to build up, but moving at a pretty fast pace. through the entire roundabout, and it's only just on some specific areas or parts where traffic has begun to slightly, and I really insist on that, slightly build up. And this is just off Langata Road through the roundabout as you head over to the city center. That's just where traffic has begun to slightly build up there. But as we leave the roundabout using Bagathi Way, which is our focus this morning, smooth sailing throughout the entire road. And the interesting bit is that this is actually on both lanes. So what this means is that the lane that is leaving Langata Road are using the roundabout as you head over to the city center, as well as the one leaving areas of probably Valley Road, Ngong Road, using Bagathi Way through the roundabout all the way to Langata Road. So on that specific one, also at smooth, also just a smooth sailing, nothing really much to say in terms of traffic, and that is why you can see this green color all through. But as I had mentioned also, Bagathi Way is not one of those busy roads in terms of activities, in terms of estates, large-scale businesses. So that could also be the reason as to why there's probably any heavy traffic gridlock, just a slight building up as you get next to the high-rise junction, which is again one of those estates along this way. So traffic just beginning to slightly build up there. But then again, that has quite changed, because past the junction, before you get to the city mortuary roundabout, moving at a pretty slow pace there. But again, past that area, just before you join the roundabout, again beginning to slightly build up. Actually, throughout this entire road is just, you know, traffic slightly building up in some areas, moving at a pretty slow pace. So that is just what we are seeing this morning when it comes to how traffic is doing, like along Bagathi Way. On the other lane, so this is now the one that is leaving the city mortuary roundabout, using the same way as you head over to T-Mall area, going all the way to areas of Langata Road. On that specific one, there's nothing really much to say in terms of traffic, just in some specific area next to the Catholic Church where traffic begins to build up there. But in as much as, yes, it's building up, but it's also just slightly building up, indicating that at least it's a manageable kind of traffic there. But also it's very important for me to mention that especially around T-Mall roundabout area, as well as City Mortuary, which is just where the road begins as well as ends, Bagathi, where there's also traffic police who are normally stationed there up and early, trying to see how best they can control traffic. So Bagathi is not that, you know, one of those major roads, and you can clearly see that also that the stretch is not, you know, that, you know, big stretch. So just beginning from City Mortuary roundabout and ending at T-Mall roundabout. So this is just what or how Bagathi Way is looking like this morning. Nothing really much to say in terms of heavy traffic build up, just manageable kind of a gridlock there. In some parts beginning to slightly build up, in others just moving at a pretty fast pace. But also we haven't witnessed any kind of major activities in terms of reconstruction processes, just like I would see on other major roads such as Ngong Road there along this route. So again, ultimately that could also be the reason as to why there's no that heavy traffic gridlock along this route. But one of the things that had also come out from this way is that that footbridge that was just along this, you know, route where there was a lot of dirt along this road, just making it difficult for pedestrians to cross over from one side of the road to the other one. In fact, at some point, sometime last year, it was even making headlines, you know, just residents there complaining that what could be happening along this bridge, dirt all through. So ultimately, this also made, you know, people that are using this route to use the roads instead of the footbridges. And, you know, the reason as to why these bridges are normally installed is for pedestrians to use. But at least that has been done away with. So clearly also one of the things that, you know, is resulting to not having that heavy gridlock, because then again, if you're having pedestrians having to use the roads instead of the footbridges, also that normally leads to traffic, because what that means is that the traffic police have to sometimes stop the vehicle for pedestrians to cross, which in other words, if the bridges were there, then they wouldn't have to do that. So again, so if you tend to see, you know, a lot of footbridges being installed on major roads, one of them is not just in terms of reducing on the number of death cases, but But again, another major reason as to why that is normally being done on some of these major roads is just to reduce on the traffic flow. And just as I have explained to you earlier, that is what normally happens. But at least as of now, along Bagathi Way doesn't look so bad. And also just past the city mortuary roundabout again, also not looking so bad, in as much as yes, traffic is beginning to slightly build up, and even in some parts moving at a pretty slow pace, but doesn't look that bad at all. But again, also it's quite interesting because while the build up is actually on both lanes, again, just like how it was around T-Mall roundabout, it is also the same case around the city mortuary roundabout. Remember that around T-Mall we were witnessing traffic on both lanes, just slightly past the roundabout. The traffic was being witnessed on both lanes, and it is the same case also around city mortuary roundabout. So in as much as yes, that is happening, at least it is a manageable kind of traffic. So yes, in as much as beginning to slightly build up there, but really looking quite manageable. And this is just past the city mortuary roundabout. And as I had mentioned, this road is not one of those major big roads, because the stretch again is also not quite big there. So that is how Mbagathi Way is looking like. So again, what this means is that if you are coming from Langata Road, then clearly this could be one of those best routes that you can use as your alternative routes, instead of going all through past Timor roundabout. I'm using Langata Road as you head over through that stretch, because clearly as of now looking not so bad. Let's look a bit at Valley Road, just past the city mortuary roundabout, so that we can actually ascertain if this is a good alternative route. And also past the city mortuary roundabout doesn't also look that bad, moving clearly fast. So again, what this means is that if you are coming from Langata Road, then clearly this is just one of those good alternative routes that you may want to use. But that's where I want us to close the traffic. This first link, this early morning hour, our focus has just been on Mbagathi Way. Probably in the next link up segment, we'll be trying to look at some other roads and also try to look at some other alternative routes for you, our viewers. That brief from our traffic marshal A1 Doreen Arwange, bringing us up to speed to discussing our interaction, to have our main discussion this morning, which is sexual reproductive health rights. The question is, do the youth know their sexual reproductive health rights? And are parents or guardians talking to their children about this? Then what is the importance of this particular talk? Just giving us a backgrounder is that there's been an alarming increase of teenage pregnancies as well as gender-based violence. Just to read but an excerpt of a story that one of the local dailies has captured is that 3 murders in hospital compound terrify Gilgil. Now, the residents of Gilgil Sub-County Hospital staff quarters are grappling with 3 bizarre, murders in the last 12 hours. 2 children were poisoned with a deadly orange, and a nurse was stabbed to death. Now, according to Councillor Catherine Wanjohi, she says that the general violence and domestic violence has risen sharply across the country since COVID-19 was identified, and more than 4 months ago. Now, she says that children and women are the most affected during this time due to the stress. Now, due to the ongoing pandemic that has seen people lose their jobs, we have recorded violence targeting women and minors who are considered weak and vulnerable, and the trend is worrying. Last week, we were talking about the issue of teen pregnancies and what we can do both at individual level, community level, and also government level to just stem this increase of teenage pregnancies. This morning, we want to tackle the issue of sexual reproductive health rights and how then this can affect the current situation, or rather change the trajectory in relation to issues of teenage pregnancy, gender-based violence, forced early marriages, and such. I will be joined by different participants who are spread across the country to give in their input, both on a personal level and also with their expertise having dealt with these issues. I would want to briefly introduce them.
joining me live? Now, we will be joined by this guest live in not long. Yes, you can see them there. Different gentlemen there and women who are going to be participating in this conversation that we are having this morning in light of, the current development, teenage pregnancies, issues of gender-based violence. Is this the right time then to discuss this issue that has been viewed as taboo? And in as much as we are in the 21st century, parents, guardians alike, and even systems have found it difficult to adequately address this issue. Introducing my first guest, Steve Owiti, who is an MCA from Kisumu County. Steve, joining me live, Steve. Good morning.
Thank you so much. I'm following and I'm in. I want to welcome our viewers this morning as we discuss this important topic that has really affected our children now that we are living home. I want to believe it's very important to be part and parcel of this and talk to our parents and especially the whole nation so that we can come out in our numbers. I think because of the increase in gender-based violence, I think it's necessary that as parents, we need to take most of our time to talk to the children and ensure that some of the problems that are now facing them can be handled. And I think we've had this several times. Thank you so much for inviting me for the show.
Thank you very much for that brief interview there, Steve Owiti, who is a member of County Assembly from Kisumu County, saying that it's a high time that we had these conversations. Before I let you go, Steve Owiti, and I know you're going to be with us during the course of this particular show, from where you sit as a leader, do you think the time is right to start having these conversations in regard to the sexual reproductive health rights? Remember, this bill has already been, gazetted, but we're still finding it very hard to disseminate the information contained therein. How then, from where you sit, are you going to enable, access of this information, enable your constituents get access to this information?
Thank you. I want to say that it's important. The conversation has been going on for quite some time, and we've had different perspectives. One, the perspective of the church, where a number of church institutions have not been very comfortable with the discussion, especially in our schools. I think it's time that we have to come up with a way and a formula, a message that is packaged so well that our children are able to be given the same information in time or on time. One, you realize that as we speak, some of the things that we avoid discussing with our children are things that they're already aware of. And a lot of things are happening around us. When you look at the broadcast media or the television and the rest, they listen and watch quite a number of things. And as parents, it's necessary for us now to accept that some of the cultural practices that we used to have, that we have been practicing, that has already barred us from discussing some of these things with our children, will no longer be relevant. So I think we must come up with a way. I always say it's good to encourage people to be involved in this conversation, but we must have a holistic discussion. The message that we don't only want to talk about sexual activities. We want to talk about sex, gender, as per se, so that our children can be able to learn and understand who they are. They'll be able to take some of the challenges. And as legislators and as the county assemblies, we need also to join this conversation very strongly so that we'll be able, at each and every county level, we are able to come up with, because counties are representing different cultural backgrounds or cultural practices. So as counties, we love to look at the whole law that has already been created and also come up with our own customized legislation that will be able to kind of look at the cultural practices we have, so that when we go into our schools and the rest, we'll be able to package the information that does not in any way have conflict with our cultural practices. Because sometimes this discussion or this conversation is not able to go on properly simply because of the cultural interests and the faith, the beliefs that we have.
Thank you very much. Steve Owiti, who is live from Kisumu, is a member of County Assembly, saying that you need to have a holistic conversation and not just focusing on about the issue, the act, the Sexual Intercourse Act, but just talk about other issues that are around matters of sexual reproductive health. And just to mention but a few, what this contains is that components of reproductive health include reproductive health itself, adolescent health, maternal health, contraception, sexually transmitted infections, abortion, FGM, and child forced marriages. All that are encompassed within reproductive health. Now, roping in our expert this morning, that is Esther. I'm joined live by Esther, who is an expert, to just share, her insights in regard to the Sexual Reproductive Health Rights Bill in its current form, having that now it has already been gazetted. Good morning, Esther. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Great to have you on board. Continue,
yes,
please.
I think it's a step in the right direction because finally we can all read from the same page in terms of parents and other stakeholders. I think for a long time we've expected schools or churches or mosques to be the ones that are spearheading this conversation, with parents taking a secondary role. But now that we can have one unified voice and be able to speak together and to share the same message, I believe that just because parents aren't speaking doesn't mean their children are not listening. And just to allude to what has already been said, we need to speak, and we need to customize it, taking into consideration our cultural beliefs, where we are from, because these can be hindrances in children actually hearing what needs to be heard.
Esther, just let me interject that. Thank you for that. We'd want to know where you're live from. We had
I'm
Steve
live from Mombasa.
Mombasa. That is Mombasa County represented there in our conversation this morning. You've mentioned something very important, the need that parents and guardians are not speaking, so the youth are not listening. Then how then do we bridge the gap, and whose role is it to discuss these matters of sexuality, especially with adolescents and young people? Because looking at the current statistics, that's where the main challenge is. Then whose role is it, especially within the social strata, to have these conversations?
I'd just like to clarify, just because the parents aren't speaking doesn't mean the youth are not listening. Just because there's a void there, then they're looking for information elsewhere. And the danger with that is that the information might not be entirely true. So you have a bit of truth and a bit of, if I could call it, lies. So they'll believe one thing, but it's not clear as it should be. I think a challenge that we're having is in this current season of Corona, because they cannot go to the places where they would actually get information freely in a way that it's broken down to them. I do believe that this conversation needs to be had in different places, the unified voice. So the parents need to speak, the church and the religious leaders need to speak, as well as the schools as well. But now that our children are home, parents need to pull up their socks, because they're the only hope that we have for this season.
Now, we've had a lot of criticism of this particular bill, or rather in matters of sexual reproductive health rights and the access to knowledge and such. One of the factions that has been totally great critics of this issue is the religious sect, saying that this is a little bit too much. But then the question is, when is the right time to have these conversations? Age-appropriate information to suit that particular demographic.
Okay, I think sometimes we want to contextualize it, but we miss the point, because a girl who is 10 or 11 and has already started menstruating, that means her body is physiologically ready to carry a baby if she has intercourse with a man. So I think we need to place it to bear in terms of scientific facts, that you have reached this stage and your body is able to make a baby, you are able to sire a baby. So what can we do? What are the decisions that we can make? I do believe that the conversation could be tailored a bit differently for different age groups, but I think sometimes in shielding our children by not wanting to give them accurate information, not too much information, but accurate information, then we leave a gap that can be filled by different other voices.
Thank you very much, Esther. We'll be coming back to you shortly after we've just introduced a guest on our panel this morning. My next guest is joining me live next in this conversation to just put matters of sexual reproductive health rights into perspective. Today we're asking those questions. Do the youth know their rights? And are parents talking to their children about this particular issue? And what is the importance of this talk?
Yeah.
And how then will all having this conversation help change the trajectory currently? We have an increased number of teenage pregnancies. We have increased number of gender-based violence. There's the issue of FGM as well as early forced child marriages. My next guest, that is Mutua. Good morning, Mutua. How are you?
My name is Runalo.
Good morning, Mutua. How are you? Tell us where you're live from.
I'm very fine. Thank you very much. I'm live from Nakuru County.
Thank you very much. Nakuru County represented. Now, what do you think about, is the time right to have these conversations out in the open? When there was debate at the floor of the House in Parliament, very many people, critics came out and said that children do not need to know such issues. The religious sect had its own, or rather faction had its own criticism of that particular bill. But now that we find ourselves in this situation, increased number of teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, issues of child forced marriages, is this the right time to have these conversations? And to borrow what Esther has said, is that we need to have scientific facts put out there and also tailored conversations. What is your take in that regard?
My take in this is not only the right time, but this ought to have started as soon as yesterday, because I think these are very pertinent issue that if we bury our heads in the sand, I don't think we are going to have very good results. So
well, it seems we're having a bit of a technical issue there with your feed, Mutua. I don't know if it's on your end or our end, but that's the kind of conversation we're having this morning. So what topics should adolescents and young people be taught in as far as matters of sexuality, and at what age? That is our current line this morning. What topics should adolescents and young people be taught on matters of sexuality, and at what age? What is the right age to have these conversations? My next guest this morning. Thank you very much. Kindly give us a brief introduction of where you are live from and your occupation, please.
my name is Martin Lunalo.
Thank you. Martin Munaro, from where?
I'm also live from Nakuru, and I work for reproductive health, youth-friendly and environmental conservation. That's RIFE. And it's true that our young children are very much involved in issues of early sex that has contributed to a lot of issues when it comes to reproductive health services across this country. And I can just say that the reproductive health bill that we have in the Senate...
Martin, we are coming to you shortly. It seems we have a mix-up of our picture and sound there, but thank you for that feedback, and you've just opened up these conversations as to where our children are already engaging in appropriate relations in as far, as reproductive issues are concerned, and it's the high time we address this issue. We want to remind you that the next conversation, we are talking about the youth and sexual reproductive health rights. Are they aware of their rights? And are parents and guardians talking to the children about these issues? And if they're not, what is hampering, or rather, stopping this communication? What is the importance of this talk? And then, if we have this conversation, do we have systems in place to ensure that the future of our children are secure in light of the current circumstances? High number of teenage pregnancies, issues of gender-based violence, child forced marriages. We had a case, and we've been focusing on the issue of that is happening in Busia, where children are trading in sexual favors to purchase sanitary towels. Roping in my guest this morning, that is Martin Munaro, who we could only get sound earlier on. Good morning, Martin. Now we have you on set. Thank you very much. How about you just start off where we left from? Now, what topics from where you sit, what topics should adolescents and young people be taught on matters of sexuality, and at what age? What is your opinion? Martin, we see you. So my question to you is, in your opinion, at what age should we have these conversations between adults and young people?
My opinion will be that immediately when these children are at adolescent age, when they start the issues of menstrual, or when they are ready in terms of they are sexually active, that's the right time that this information is supposed to be given to these young people. And we don't need to bury our heads in the sand when it comes to matters of SRHR. Because one, most of our young people are getting lost because they have no information, or no one is willing to speak out this information to them. So at that time, if we get this opportunity to speak out to the young people on some of the key issues that are affecting them through reproductive health, under reproductive health issues, I think it is the best time to start introducing this concept. Let us not wait until these young people are at the age of 17 or 16 years. The right time is immediately when they are sexually active.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin Monaro, for that feed. You think that the appropriate age to have this conversation about sexual and reproductive health rights is the adolescent stage. We will be joining you in not too long, since after we've rectified this issue of your feed. I still have several gentlemen and women and ladies who are waiting to join in, wade in into this conversation. Now, Karuga joins me live. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Karuga. I can see Nakuru is well represented. I'm also live from Nakuru County.
It's good to have you on board.
Thank you. So my day-to-day work involves working with young people. I work with an organization called Family Health Options Kenya. Our work involves providing sexual reproductive health and rights services to the young people, and also dissemination of comprehensive sexuality education among young people in schools and out of schools. So that is basically what we do. And we are so much passionate about adolescent sexual and reproductive health.
So from where you sit, you're exactly in the thick of things in as far as disseminating, information, as well, just, empowering the youth in as far as sexual reproductive health rights are concerned. Do you think that we have done enough to ensure that our youth get this information, and is it helping them in making better choices?
What I can say is that we are a work in progress. For now, we are experiencing a lot of changes and a lot of push and pull from policymakers to religious leaders, and you're also saying parents should have a role to play in this. But as an organization, we believe it is the role of everyone in the community to make sure that young people are informed about their bodies and they can be able to handle challenges that come with it. So I can say for now we are doing well, because Kenya has many policies that speak on reproductive health. The only problem is that we are having opposition here and there, and that is one thing that we need to address, especially matters concerning our values and attitudes towards sexual reproductive health. Yes.
Now, Martin there, who came on board before you did, said in his opinion is that when children are adolescents, when they get to that adolescent stage, then that is the appropriate time to have this conversation so that they can understand, the biology of their bodies and such, and, the implications of, of decisions that they may take. What is your take? What is the appropriate age to start having these conversations?
As I can say, there is no definite age to start this conversation, but it's upon the parents and the teachers to know how the developmental stages of young people. I can say it depends with the context, first of all. A young person in Nakuru in a certain estate is different from a young person in Nairobi in another estate. So this information is socially constructed, and young people learn from the people around them. So I can say it is the role of the parents to know how their children are progressing as they develop, and they can give them information depending on their age, so that you don't end up talking about everything and making the kid to become more curious. So it is age appropriate because there is no definite or a standardized age where we can say by age this and this, you're supposed to begin this information. But you can tell from the way the kids are behaving, from the way our children are responding, and other challenges that have come about by development, like social media, the interactions we are having. So when we say it is age appropriate, we can say from age 10, because they're also learning about reproductive system in biology, they can also be taught about the social aspects of it. As we have in Kenya, our system is concentrating so much on the biological part of it, we are forgetting about the social, and presently due to COVID-19, we have seen the issues of psychological coming up, and it's affecting the mental health of young people. So that is it.
You have mentioned very key issues there. The issue that policy makers seem to be pulling in different directions. And one of the issues, or rather the crux of this conversation and the drift, is the issue and use of, contraceptives. It has been a very thorny issue, but it would, contraception and modes of contraception actually squarely fall on the issue of reproductive health rights. As someone who is within this, value chain, what is your opinion? We had even the government trying to roll out, the HPV vaccine that was very controversial, having been tested across the globe with, different repercussions, or rather results going forward. From where you sit, issue of contraceptives. Should we give our children, should youth access contraception?
Yes, what I can say about contraceptive is that the public and all stakeholders need to understand some of these interventions are based on evidence and research that we collect. And you see, a young girl who has started menstruating can get pregnant anytime they have unprotected sex with someone who is also mature enough to impregnate them. So if a girl is menstruating, I think she should have access to contraceptive, but it is not like we are just giving them contraceptive. When you talk about access to reproductive health services, these service providers have also been trained on youth-friendly services, whereby they begin with pre-counseling first of all, to understand the situation that this young person is in and why they need to access this contraceptive. From where I sit, I've seen so many young girls coming to access contraceptive, but after assessment, the nurse can be able to advise them and counsel them to make informed choices. And it's not like everyone is being forced to have these contraceptives. The other thing is that we also respect the client's rights, and we understand the context of which they come in. And when we understand all these things, we can be able to provide contraceptive to those ones who you see they really need it, and it can be able to protect them from unplanned pregnancies. Because if a girl comes for contraceptives, it means they have knowledge and they have a plan about their life. It is not like they are careless. It is something, and it's an entry point to advise them and talk to them so that they can be able to understand the implications of teenage pregnancies around them. So that is a good entry point for young people to come in and access services. And it is not that we force the contraceptives on them, but there's a lot which goes on in the consultation room. There is counseling for these young people. We share about the side effects of these contraceptives, so that you can make them make informed choices. And when you look at this, it is evidence-driven, and we should not make a lot of values around these issues, so that you can be able to have these young people accessing adequate services. So I can say it is a very good entry point to have better conversation with these young, like what the MCA shared earlier.
Thank you very much. That is Kevin Karuga from Nakuru, who works with the Family Health Option Kenya, and he's a youth coordinator. He feels that, the issue of age appropriateness is relative depending on exposure, as well as the issue of contraception is also an entry point to just offer non-medical reproductive health information. Thank you very much, Kevin. Still stay on the line. We have so much to discuss. Mike, introducing my other guest, not second actually. Good morning. Kindly give us your name and where you're live from. Rebecca, good morning. Tell us where you are live from.
Good morning to you. Well, my name is Rebecca Cheng, and I work for Stretchers Youth Organization in Mombasa County. And as Stretchers Youth Organization, we are basically focusing on issues of sexual reproductive health and rights, especially on the issues of policy advocacy. So we also do mentorship to these young girls, the adolescents and the young girls. And as the conversation is ongoing, we can say that there's no like exact age how to start this conversation on sexuality. Because as my colleague said that depending on how these children are behaving, because from age of 9, you find that these young girls are really sexually active. So it is very true that parents need to take the responsibility and talk to their children. And also now that COVID is here with us, we understand that the teachers are not around again to stay with these children. Whom are we supposed to blame with all these teenage pregnancies around us in the community? Parents are the ones who are very close to their children, and so they're supposed to take their responsibility. So we have a lot of policies regarding sexual reproductive health, right? Including the sexual reproductive health policy. We have, as Mombasa County, we have a policy known as Mombasa County Adolescent Sexual Reproductive Health on HIV and SRA that was launched 2018. And this is a policy developed by the young people themselves through different conversations with adolescents. As Stretchers Organization, we had conducted adolescent symposium where we met over 400 adolescents who were able to share their needs, who were able to share some of the challenges that they go through. And from this forum, we found that they came up with a recommendation. And the recommendation was that they need a policy that they can own on themselves. And this policy is where we came up, we developed it, and we launched it. And last year, we also developed the implementation framework of it. So you found that in Mombasa County, most of the programs regarding sexual reproductive policy are based or are in line with this AYP strategy that is supposed to be implemented at the county level. And we found that most programs on sexual reproductive rights are owned by the youth themselves, are owned by the youth.
Rebecca Cheng, thank you for that feed, but it seems we're having a bit of a static on your feed and would want you to remain on the line. I hope it stabilizes, because from where you sit, I'd want to understand what are the hurdles in accessing non-biased medical reproductive health, information. You've said that you have come up with policies, and youth are saying that they need to have policies that they can own. As a person who's already in this value chain, what are the hurdles in accessing non-biased medical, medical reproductive health info in regard to this conversation that we're having? Rebecca. It seems we have a problem with that particular feed, but introducing my other guest, that is Patrick Maratani. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Now let's have this conversation. So far, the questions we're asking is that then, we've already established that indeed we need to have this conversation with our young adults and adolescents so that we can address issues that we're seeing, teenage pregnancies and such. Tell us, Patrick, tell us where you're live from and give us your feed in regard to what has been highlighted here, that contraceptives do not necessarily mean that, they're not so bad. It doesn't mean that we are forcing our children or rather making them promiscuous, but it also provides an entry point to give guidance and counseling to these particular children. What is your take, Patrick?
Thank you. Actually, my names are Pius. My name is Pius Nyongesa Maratani.
Okay.
Talking right from Nakuru County, and I'm a father of 4. Well, going straight to the point, you find that the contraceptives, actually, they have no problem. But now the age, we need to understand at what age can we introduce these kids or the children about the contraceptives. As the speakers have said earlier, it is very important to start at least at the age of adolescence. But in the beginning, we should have
a stage where we introduce the lessons slowly by slowly because their brains are growing. If we can just allow or start teaching our children these contraceptives education, it will have to be sometimes not be taken well because at early age they might not understand. So you need to introduce like from the age of 7 to 10, you introduce them to the maturity standards and also the education about the sex generally. As you filter some important questions or some important information. Otherwise, after the adolescence, maybe at a teenager is when you start introducing to them and how they should use them well. Because I'm not doing it because I'm a staunch Christian, but at least to understand, because they can end up misusing them. And these are the results why they think that they can do it anyhowly and then they can control. But because of that, at the end of it, they are misusing the opportunities.
Now, Pius Muratani, you're a father of 4. As a
Yes.
parent, have you had this
Yes.
conversation with your children?
Yes, I do it every day. Even those who are out now, I always text them, I always call them, and at least in a given time we sit down, we discuss, and at least have some lessons and understand. Because the problem is that what we need to understand is that our kids, actually, especially the teenagers, are born to be rebels or are at the stage of rebels, meaning it is a very active stage where you think they think. And if you are not very careful, you'll end up get crashing with them or not understanding them. And it is very bad because they can take it wrongly. But if you sit down, reason with them, and also realize that you are also in that age. So you should not harass them, but listen to them, because many times they always make the wrong decisions because they don't have somebody to talk to. But if the parents are available, you listen to them, you will get more information from them. And they are very informative, by the way, at that stage.
Now, before I let you go, Pius Muratani, in your experience as a parent, what were the main concerns, from your children in regard to this issue, of sexual reproductive health and their rights? Just giving them, what concerns did they have? Pius, it seems we have lost you, but we'd have wanted to know from...
Yeah, the first thing is that
we were just wanting, we wanted to know...
You can get me?
We wanted to find out in your, as a parent, and you've said you've already had this conversation with your children, what were their primary concerns in regard to this matter, sexual reproductive health rights and such? What were their main concerns?
Okay, they want to discover a lot, especially what they are seeing on the media and around them. So that makes them at least, or maybe going beyond and not controlling themselves so much. And also the understanding. Most of them, when you talk to them, they will tell you that their parents are not understanding. You see, they have valid reasons why maybe they can fall into problems or temptations. So I would urge all the parents to understand their kids and lower their tempers, because making a mistake is not bad, but repeating a mistake is bad. So it will be good if all parents can listen to them, can reason with them, then they will get more information and it will be able to control them. We can only win this war by intelligence, not talking tough, not behaving so rough.
Thank you very much, Pius, for that in-depth, opinion in regard, feedback into regard to the sexual reproductive health rights. I hear you saying that parents have to be present and they have to be ready to tackle these conversations. And our children right now are trying out what they are seeing on social media. Other issues. Now, the issue of technology and how technology can influence the reproductive rights space. My next guest this morning, we're going to be tackling that issue, the aspect of technology and its impact, or rather influence, on reproductive rights space. Okay, now we go back we had Steve Owiti, who is live from Kisumu County. Good morning, Steve, once again.
Good morning again. Thank you so much for bringing me back again.
Yeah. Now, what is your take in regard to use of technology, Steve? What is your opinion, or what is your feedback or your feel in regard to the use of technology and how it has influenced the reproductive rights space?
As we speak, I want to tell you there's a lot of information out there in the social media and on the internet that is available to our children. And I would tell you for sure, there's no way we are going to assume the role of technology in bringing up our children. As we speak, I'll tell you, sometimes I look at my teenage young people, my teenage children, they are there, people in the family, and everybody's having their phone. You don't know what they're doing with it. Everybody's chatting. People are sitting in one place, nobody's talking to each other. And that is even extended to the adults, where you even find a group of people, they are sat on a table. You thought they had gone out even to discuss something. Everybody's busy using their phones. And that means the kind of information, there's a lot of information that is available to our children. But I want to say that there is a role that we need to play as leaders and as parents. But the problem is, are we really aware of what we are supposed to do? Most parents would want to talk to their children, but do they have the right information that they can give to their children? Are they really prepared as parents or as leaders to face the people and face the younger generation? I've been following this conversation, and there's a lot of things that are coming up. I want to say it's good to have the accurate information, but must also be laced with the right values. And when we come to this, sexual awareness is something very important that I want to say should not be starting at the adolescent age. Look at the children of 5 years of age. Look at what they are able to watch, what they know, the kind of questions, the kind of dances we see on the social media. If we are going to wait until they get to the teenage age so that we start talking to them, I want to say we would be late. We must start talking to our children as early as 5 years of age, so that what they know, what they see, they get the right perception towards how life is. Otherwise, if we are going to cover our faces and assume that these things are not there. I also want to say there are other points that I would call them the bone of contention. The other issues that have been a lot of issues about, that's the contraceptives and the abortion that is in this reproductive health bill. Naturally, as Africans and as Christians, we are very fearful when it comes to the discussion of abortion. But the problem is it's happening. How are we going to also close our eyes and assume that do not do it, do not do this, if we are not willing to tackle the bull by the horn? I want to ask and urge parents and even the leaders that as we prepare to talk to the children, can we also prepare the parents and even the leaders, so that we can even in our local assemblies, we call them county assemblies, we can come up with bills that will be able to protect our children from unnecessary information, because the exposure that we have, the kind of things that the children are exposed to, the kind of things that the youth are exposed to, that information, we must come up with a way that will be able. Otherwise, if you're going to assume some of these things, technology is already taken over, and you find that most of the parents that we have today are parents that have replicated their roles to technology. Most of the things we leave the children learn on the internet, and we're not even able. Sometimes they are even much more aware than the parents, and that you are not even able to see what they are seeing. I remember one incident where a parent had given the phone to one of the sons, and the sons decided to go into those pornographic sites and started downloading. Unfortunately, the person decided, as the boy downloaded those things, he sent the pornographic images to different WhatsApp groups, which was a big embarrassment, even to the church groups. So some of these things, do you need to know? What is it that my son is doing or my daughter is doing with the phone, or my niece? What sites are they watching? And then sometimes we have to talk to them so that we cannot force them. As the other has already mentioned, we must make them understand that this is the right value, and that must be inculcated at a tender age when they are still able to adapt. You can only train a tree when it's still young. It gets to a point where you can now, when it's bent, you cannot. So that brings me back to my point that as we discuss these things, the age is not that teenage. The age goes back as soon as the child is aware of their sexual being. We must start training them and giving them the right information so that as they grow, they are aware of what is expected of them. Otherwise, we will not bring up a strong society.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Steve, there for that insight. And just before I let you go and introduce Esther once again to this conversation, we've had cases that have been highlighted by mainstream media where the parents are somewhat perpetrators of some of these issues. We have a situation where parents are sending out their children, to go fend for the family, like, hey, you're going out, come back with something to eat, or hey, I do not have money to buy for you sanitary towels. So girls in different counties, different parts of the country are forced to trade in sexual favors to just get basic amenities such as sanitary towels. As a leader, as a parent, what is your take on that, and what is the way forward?
I want to tell you that is very wrong. And I want to give you a typical example we have in Kisumu. As a leader in Kisumu, we have a discussion going on about there are girls as young as 7, 8, 12 years who you find on the street in the evening towards before the curfew used to be there. You used to find girls on the street selling the so-called liquid soap. Some are even selling the boiled maize at night. And you are wondering at what point do these girls get back home and how safe they are. So some of these things, when we send our children, it's because we have failed parenting. A number of in society today, most parents are not taking their responsibilities as it should be. And when we send out our young children to go and fend for themselves so that they can be able to buy as basic things as sanitary towels, we are telling the society that we have failed. And I think these are some of the things that we as leaders, from wherever we sit, we cannot allow and see go on. And that's why in our assembly, I'd even asked that we had already moved a statement, and a motion is soon coming up so that before the curfew, before the COVID pandemic came in, we were having a very serious problem with our young girls and young children roaming the streets at night in the pretext that they are selling the boiled maize and all those kind of liquid soap. And there were people who were preying on them. And as you have already put it, there are even parents and there are even relatives that are preying on their young girls and boys. I think those are some of the things that we, from wherever we say, as this conversation goes on, we must also ensure that we are realistically involved and we are also aware of some of the basic things that happen in our families that we need to cover. But I still say, all these, as we look at them, how prepared are we as adults, and that is as parents and as leaders, to tackle these problems? Some of the things are, as I said, there are people who are willing. They want to talk about the sexual reproductive health, the issues of sexuality of our children, of our young adults, and the rest. But the preparedness, I think, as we focus on this, we must also now look at our parents, the caregivers. We must tell them that this is the right information that we need to give to them and prepare them so that they go out there readily. Because sometimes when you are confronted with the children or even the young people, sometimes it's because you don't have the right information. You may not be able to talk to them or give them what they need.
Thank you very much, Steve Owiti there, live from Kisumu County, who is a member County Assembly there, saying that this is a collective responsibility, especially for the grown-ups, that is the parent, leaders, and such. Now we want to hear from an expert and especially highlight this issue when it comes to menstrual health. I'm joined by Esther Mbogwa-Kimemia, who is an author of menstrual health and an author and also a menstrual health advocate, as well as an endometriosis ambassador. Good morning, Esther. How are you?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Great to have you back on board. We've highlighted that particular issue where you're finding that girls have having to trade in sexual favors to just get basic amenities like sanitary towels. The conversation about providing sanitary towels is something that has taken too long to actually be implemented in our schools. From where you sit, then because this situation has taken far too long in the 21st century, and still sanitary towels in our public schools or schools is not considered a basic, we have the government providing condoms, but the government is not providing sanitary towels. And then how then is this affecting menstrual hygiene from where you sit?
I think it's absolutely sad that menstrual health is not a priority because we don't choose to menstruate. Menstruation happens. Sex is optional, but menstruation isn't. So it's something that we'll have to keep lobbying for until our voices are heard. I think the issue around hygiene it's complicated because even if you opted for non-disposable, reusable products, we still have the issue of sanitation in terms of water. So in trying to fix a problem by saying we have a product that is reusable, we might not have access to clean water or soap, or even be able to hang out our product in the sun. So this does cause an issue. We have women bags or like jute to just make a pad as well, and that does cause infections as well. But because we don't really talk about menstrual health, we talk about the pad, but we don't really educate girls on what is normal and what is not normal. Like if I use a pad and I have a reaction, what am I supposed to do? Another thing is giving a girl only one packet of pads. Sometimes it's not enough. So they're forced to use something else to back her up. Or we also have issues of girls who have a very heavy flow. So the 8 pads in the packet are not enough to go through the 4 or 5 days as well. So as much as we are pushing for the government to give pads, we also need them to hear us. We need them to hear us and come to the ground and ask these girls, how is your menstrual cycle? How does it go? Are you having heavy bleeding? Is it lasting 7 days long? If it is lasting for a longer time, is there access to actual health facilities where they can actually go and be seen by a doctor? And because we have a lot of stigma around menstrual health, women only go to hospital when they are in dire need. Mm-hmm. That's after very many years of actually suffering. So going back to hygiene, it's important. It is a basic need. And I wish men would fight for us as vocally as women do, because
actually you've just picked that out of my next question here. And as far as when we've seen that there's been a concerted focus on, whenever we're talking about sexual reproductive health, we focus on women, on the female gender. Is this the right time? What is the role of men in this conversation? And you've rightly put it, the issue of menstrual hygiene should not just be left to the women. We are the ones who go through that biological phase. However, the men folk need to come up, stand up, and get counted in this issue then. Is there the role that men can play in as far as sexual reproductive health is concerned? Esther?
I think there definitely is. I think when men speak, more people listen. And we have had men who have come up. We have King Kaka, we have ASSW as well, which is providing safe sanitation to women, not just in Kenya, not just in Mombasa, but in different places in the world. But we need to come together because they are our wives, they are our mothers, they are our sisters, they are our daughters who need these products. It's not just about a woman far away, but it's also about the women who are close to us, the women we interact with every day. So men can come.
Now, it seems we have a bit of static there, interruption with our feeder there, with our contributor at the moment. That is Esther Mbogwa Kimemia, who is live from Mombasa County. She's an author and a menstrual health advocate, as well as an endometriosis ambassador. Her take home is that men need to stand up and get counted. And she says, when men speak, more listen. The role of men in as far as sexual reproductive health rights are concerned. Esther, you were saying, now we have you back online?
Yes, so I hope that men will stand up for women like they would stand up for their wife, or they would stand up for their daughter. Whether they have access or not, they will stand up for those who do not have access, because they are women at the end of the day, and they could be our future sister-in-laws, our daughters-in-law, but it's just to stand and humanity to come together and say that, you know what, women's rights matters, menstrual hygiene rights matters as well.
Now, as we walk towards the tail end, towards winding up this particular broadcast, the issue of the boy child and their involvement in as far as sexual reproduction is concerned. Has the boy child been left behind? The mainstream media has been focusing on a story highlighting that happened in Muranga, where a 17-year-old boy impregnated his teacher. And last week, we had one of our contributors who happens to be the executive director of CRAC, that is Mr. Timothy Ekese, saying in his opinion is that the rights of the boy were violated in this case. Then the issue of the boy child and the boy child getting empowered in as far as sexual reproductive health is concerned. Introducing my guest. My next guest, Rebecca Achieng, who happens to be, one of the players within that particular space in as far as sexual reproductive health is concerned. Rebecca Achieng, glad to have you back on board. Now, the role of the boy child, or rather the menfolk, in as far as sexual reproductive health rights and such is concerned, have they been left behind? And if they have, because the general feel is they have, then what role can they play going forward to ensure that, we curb some of the things that we're seeing, increased teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, issues of forced child marriages and such? How can we rope in the men in this discussion?
Well, thank you once again for this opportunity. I just want to say that it is very key for men to be involved on the issues of menstruation, because many a times we focus on girl child, but remember, for a girl to be pregnant, there is a man behind it. So as men involvement on the issues of menstrual hygiene management, we have an aspect, as an organization, we have an aspect of men involvement, and we have somebody known as the period man. The period man is under Stretchers Youth Organization, and his aim is to ensure that men have good information or the correct information on the issues of menstrual hygiene management, and they are able to support girls in the community. So in the past few months, we've been having this initiative, picking or collecting pads from the well-wishers and community, or from different organizations, and distributing to the community members. In June 12th and 13th, we had Men for Period Conference. The first Men for Period Conference was conducted by the Period Man together with partners from County Government of Mombasa and Stretchers Youth Organization. So this Men for Period Conference was very key to ensure that men are brought on board, so that they understand that it is very important for these girls to be supported by by themselves, because we understand not all girls live with their mothers, not all girls with their aunts or sisters. Some live with fathers, some live with uncles, some live with brothers. So if this man goes for shopping and does not include sanitary pad in his shopping list, then it means we lose options in order to get the sanitary pad. And the other option is to engage in sex for pads. So we are trying to ensure that there is no more sex for pads. So that's why we involve these men. So in October, we'll also be having the Girls Summit. The Girls Summit is not only for the girls, but we are also bringing the boys on board to ensure that they take initiative of supporting the girl child, so that they also help those men who are at Kampunji. You see, there are men who sit down and discuss several issues. We ensure that when they are discussing the issues of menstruation, and then something else, we understand that these girls used to get sanitary pads from school. Now that schools are closed, the sanitary pads are not brought to the community. It is the duty of the county government or even the national government to ensure that the pads that were used to be distributed in schools are now brought in the community, and these girls are able to access the pads from the community. So we also need the issues of budget allocation, to ensure that the county government or even the national government, to ensure that there is allocation of budget on the issues of menstrual hygiene management. Because we understand there was a policy on MHM policy that was launched by the CS during the International Day of Menstrual Hygiene Day on 28th May. This menstrual hygiene policy is supposed to be domesticated at the county level so that we ensure that it's not only happening with the national level, but also at the county level. So as I conclude, I said that it is very key for these men to be involved on the issues of menstrual hygiene management so that they may help us also fighting the issues of teenage pregnancy and increase of new HIV infection and STI infection. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brenda Cheng, there for your take in regard to the issues of sexual reproductive health rights. Now, as we come to a close, we want to wrap up this conversation with our guest, Kevin Karuga, who is live from Nakuru. Kevin, good morning once again. Kevin?
Good morning.
Great. Now, I'd want you to give us the parting shot as a youth coordinator, at the Family Health Option Kenya. These conversations we've had from parents, we had from leaders, we've had, from stakeholders in general. We find ourselves in very difficult times. Children are at home for the next 6 months. Concern and statistics indicate that whenever children close for the school year, even before COVID, we had a rise and increase in teenage pregnancies. You are within this distribution, or rather what you call a supply chain. What is your take, and what role can conversations around sexual reproductive health rights have? What impact can they have in just the future, securing the future of the youth as we continue having these conversations?
Okay, thank you once more. One thing I would like to say is I like what the Honorable Awiti shared earlier. As policymakers, as religious leaders, as stakeholders in this sector, we are all parents and we all have children to take care of. When you go back home, you become a parent. So that is one of the other things that can tell us and can make us see this is something that needs a multi-sectoral approach. And within our counties and in the country, we really need to enforce the Sexual Offences Act, because all these teenage pregnancies that we talk about, the ones that we see the statistics, are as a result of defilement. Whenever a teenager gets pregnant, that is definitely defilement, and it's against the Sexual Offences Act, and action should be taken. And in as much as the law it needs a lot of reviews and a lot of repeals here and there, one thing we have to ensure is that as parents and as stakeholders, we need to start educating our children from the level at which they can understand. The MCA shared about that. Issues of menstrual hygiene can also be an entry point for us as parents and as the influential people in the community to start this conversation among young people. So there is no one definite approach to address all these issues, but we have evidence and we have strategies that can be able to work for us. I cannot say religious leaders are not working, but religious leaders should remember they also have a role to play. When you look at the reproductive health bill, which is being sponsored by Honorable Kihika, it is one of the few bills in Kenya that has mentioned the spiritual guidance, the mentorship of these young people, and this is a very key bill that can ensure we have a multi-sectoral approach to addressing these issues. The other thing is that comprehensive sexuality education is not only about sexuality. In fact, the first is usually about gender. And when you discuss about gender, you discuss about a lot of things. We have sexual citizenship, which can educate young people to know where their rights begin and where their rights end, and how they can be enablers of these problems that we are having, such as teenage pregnancies. So I cannot say we have one definite way to deal with this, but parents are the nearest people to start conversations with these young people. We have several entry points, and as I conclude, I can mention, if you have a teenage girl, if you start addressing issues of menstrual health and hygiene, it can be an entry point for you to discuss about relationships, about gender-based violence, and about many other things that are affecting young people. If you have a boy child, you can start discussing from a point of relationships, because you see young men indulging in drug and substance abuse, and those are the points that parents need to utilize so that they can have these conversations. And as we all know, what the mother or the father shares with their children, it goes a long way in their lives. And this can be one of the best ways to address all these problems that we are having before we get even to the government. So we can start from a family level, and I will proceed to other levels of the society. So that is my take today.
Thank you very much for ending that conversation this morning with that powerful note and borrowing heavily from what our guest Esther there had said, that if parents are not talking, it doesn't mean the youth are not listening. They are finding other means and ways of getting that information. A conversation that also Steve Wheaty from Kisumu County as a leader says that this is a high time we took a multi-sectoral approach to address this issue of sexual health, sexual reproductive health. And the issue of age appropriateness is not necessarily pegged on the age or gender, but on the level of exposure. That if you're talking to that girl who is just has already started her menstrual cycle, then that is an in point. If that young man, that boy who is under your care or is your child, has started breaking their voice, this is a high time that you shared information about the changes that they are expecting. Challenge there from Kevin Karuga from Nakuru, saying that conversations that are held between parents and their children last a lifetime. So it's a challenge to parents to take on this conversation that had been previously thought as being taboo, but we have seen, or rather we are reaping from that particular decision. Currently the country is just coming to terms with the increased number of teenage pregnancies. So it's a high time we had this conversation. We don't have to wait until it is too late. Thank you very much, each and every person who participated in this conversation. Rebecca Chieng telling us that we're going to have a men period conference to just rope in the men folk in as far as menstrual hygiene is concerned. There we had Esther Kimemia from Mombasa, who is a menstrual health advocate and an author, saying that we need to have these conversations and not waiting for too late. Steve Owiti from Kisumu County, as well as Martin and Mutua there, and once again Kevin Karuga. Thank you very much for your contribution, as well as Pyrrhus Muratani, a father of 4, who says he's had this conversation with his children and they have helped him execute his mandate as a father. Thank you very much. I'm Regina Manyara. Let's have this conversation once again next week.
Time for our last conversation this morning. We want to talk about gospel music in this country. We want to better find out the evolution of this industry, how it has been now and how it was back in the day. Joining me on set, Mercy Ivy, a gospel artist, gospel minister. Good morning, Mercy.
Morning, how are you?
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
You look chilled, a bit calm.
Not really, I'm good.
You're good? Yeah. Okay, before we delve deeper into understanding the evolution of the gospel industry, there's this conversation of the difference between gospel minister and a gospel artist. Is there a difference?
It depends with the definition of gospel music and gospel minister. I think for me, I'll call myself a gospel minister.
Not a gospel artist?
Not a gospel artist. Because I minister the word of God through music. So that's me, yes.
So when you say you are a gospel minister, when someone says they are a gospel minister, this is about ministering.
Yes.
And when someone says they're a gospel artist, then what does it mean?
It's okay. I think it's one and the same thing.
Okay.
But I think a gospel minister is more, it carries a lot of weight and seriousness than the gospel singer. You see, you can be a singer. It depends. You can be an entertainer.
Okay.
So it depends.
Gospel minister carries a lot of weight. That's
somehow, yeah.
Somehow.
To me.
Okay, to
not
you.
To everybody, yes.
So that you've really clarified that is just according to you as a person.
According to me.
Okay, let's dig deeper into the evolution of gospel ministry, because right now there's a lot of conversation in regards to how it was then, how it is now. There's quite a lot of disparity.
Yes.
From your perspective, when you look at how it was then and how it is now, do you spot any difference?
Yeah, there's a lot of difference.
Where's the difference?
The difference is, you remember like sometime back, our gospel mothers and fathers, Kina Ruben Kigame, Kina Saraki, Kina Meriatieno. You see, I think there's a foundation they've really laid for us, because at this particular moment, things are much easier for us than the way they used to be for them. You see, in their era, music was all about going to churches with your CDs, and just like walking, doing like you have to knock in each and every person's door. In
You
each
had
and
to
every
hustle
person.
before you make
You
it.
hustle, like that's the word.
Yeah.
You hustle before you make it. But now you see, for us, we have social media platforms where you just share a link, and your song reaches like maybe thousands of people, millions of people, depending.
Things are quite easy now.
Things are quite easy.
That is just one facet or one aspect of it. But when you say, when you talk about laying foundation and trying to say that gospel ministers of back in the day, and you've mentioned quite a couple of them, that they laid foundation, at least that for you now you can be able to step into that and at least try to make your way. What do you mean by saying foundation? What exactly does that mean? What did they do?
You see, for them, they were, I'm not saying we are not prayerful at the moment, but for them, you see, they were more prayerful. I think for them being prayerful, and also just their persistence, their motive of doing music was quite different from our generation at this moment. So you see, for them, they were doing music for a reason and a purpose. They were not doing music for entertainment and just for them, for the sake of being celebrities. Because if you look, sometimes back, if you look at their videos, like 10 years back, you're like, okay, this person has really changed. And you see, for us, we are like, we want baked stuff, raka. And for them, you see,
and tomorrow I'm everywhere.
Yeah, I want like to sing today, tomorrow I'm on TV, I'm a celeb, I'm getting money. You see, and also the motive. Most of us are doing gospel music for a very wrong reason.
Okay.
That is maybe financial stability. You want to get money.
Yeah.
You want to hit. Yeah.
You want to be known.
You want to be known. You want to be big in this country. You want to like rubbing shoulders with kina Masi Masika.
We call it big in this industry.
Exactly.
In this industry.
Exactly. Before you reach where kina Masi Masika, kina Yonis Njeri are, they're really invested. Their time, their finances, their almost everything.
Well, you've raised quite very pertinent issues that I really want us to break down a bit. And first of all, when you talk about investment, just again trying to compare the artistry now and how it was then, do you feel like that is really one of the things that is really lacking when it comes to gospel artists or gospel ministers of this day and age, of our age? Lack of wanting to invest in something, just the way you mentioned, I'm here today, I just began today, tomorrow I want to be there. And also when you talk about this investing, break it down a bit. What exactly does it entail?
Investing, I'll break it down to investing. You see, there's time.
Yes.
You really need time to be in studio. You really need time to pray. You really need time to interact. You really need time to go out and see what other people are doing out there. Because you'll not just get everything at the comfort of your home. Yeah. Like, I want to hit, I want to sing like this. You really need exposure for you to maybe do something different. You don't need to get exposure for you to maybe, I want to sing like this particular person. But you see, when you go out, you get ideas from people. And then now you're able now to come and do something even more than what they've done themselves.
So you have to put in the work, put in the effort, put in the time. This is actually what investment...
That's even finances. Ministry is not a joke. Finances, like... If you have people who believe in you and people who pray for you, they might not be financially supportive, but people who they're checking on you, they're asking how far, do you have this and this? Even if they'll not give you money, but you have that support. It's very important.
You feel like someone is actually backing you.
Exactly, yeah. Somebody's backing you up, like maybe probably sharing your music. It's not a must you support me financially. But you see, just checking on me, asking, sharing the link of my songs, you see, that's a very huge support.
And that's also another form of support, except just giving money.
Yeah, and we are not gifted in giving finances. There's somebody who is gifted in giving advices.
And it goes a long way.
It goes a long way. Like, I think if you do this, you might. You see, that idea is very important.
Okay. Again, also one thing you touched a bit on was... when you look at how the industry is right now and how it was then, and you mentioned of back in the day, or at least a couple of years back, the artists or the ministers there would really do a lot of singing for a reason and a purpose. Does that mean that now that is not happening? People are not doing it for purpose and a reason? Because again, doing it for money and purpose is a whole different story. Yeah.
I think we've drifted a bit. I'm not saying, because you see, times are changing.
Okay.
We can't just do exactly venye those guys used to do kitambo. Times are changing, and I really can't blame us, and I really can't blame hizo times za kitambo. It's just we really need to borrow from those times, because if you see the gospel at us, you can even feel yourself. Like there's a person who can do music right now. I do a song, it takes a month, and then that song is nowhere. You see somebody like Angela Chibalonza, her songs are still living on. She's dead like several years ago, but her songs are still on. So I think also that is what I desire. I just don't want to do music for the sake of doing 1 month, 2 months, and then I'm nowhere. I really need to leave a legacy.
Or you do it for 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, you hit, we know you
Yeah,
then.
that's what I'm saying. The foundation of it is very important. Before you do something, you really need to involve God. Ask God, which reasons am I doing this thing for? Is it for entertainment? Is it for just maybe having fun? Or is it your will? If it's God's will, no matter how long it takes, I believe you'll get somewhere eventually. Yeah, but don't do it with a motive, I want to hit, I want to get money. You will not get that money, you'll be disappointed.
So motive is again one of the things that
Yes.
one needs to be looking out for when
Yeah.
they try to do whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's come to your music and your journey as a person. You say that you are a gospel minister, and that's how you would describe yourself.
Yes.
So how was it like, for you starting out, and when did you begin doing gospel?
I started way back in high school, but I was...
When you walianzia discover talent at least
zile.
kitambo.
But you see, they were not even in high school. I'd say when I was just young, but you see, you don't believe in yourself. You don't think something good can come out of you. And the people who you are surrounded with people who are always negative, and maybe they think, this one cannot. But now you see, the best thing I did for myself was affirm myself. I used to tell myself, I know this is what I want to be, and I know I can do it. But you see now the fear, and also you don't have somebody maybe to tell you can do it. But now when I came to high school, I could sing on parade. I was in CU. So
that was in high school?
Yeah, in high school. So I was elected as the music director in high school, and I was like, they think I can do it. So if they think I can do it, I know I can do it. So I started from there. Then after high school, that is several years, I did my first single. That is Unishike Mkono.
That was your first song?
Yes, that was my first song. So I did an audio. Then after several months, I did the video. And then after that time, I sat down and thought to myself, like...
Which year is this?
2017.
2017.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought to myself, why are you doing this? Because I didn't have the courage to do a lot of things. I was very shy, by the way. I could not do anything. But somebody like my bishop in my church, Bishop Osha Mominde, he could encourage me. He could just tell me to, remember, next Sunday you'll be singing for us. So I could go and start thinking, now, Sasa, how will I do it? How will I do it? And he's like, no, you'll have to do it. Utaacha ujinga. In fact, I remember his words, utaacha ujinga. You have to do it, and you'll do it.
So someone who spotted like you had a talent in this.
He really, by the way, he saw the best in me when I couldn't, and he could because we used to have evening service, so I could just take a microphone and start singing before guys came in. I think he had, and he was like, I think
this
you're
girl
joking.
can actually sing.
Yes, I think you're joking. So he really sat me down and he told me, you have a talent, and it's not a talent because you have a good voice. It's something I see in you, and this is God. Yeah, so from there I started now accepting, I think
that I can actually do this.
I can do it, and it's not because I can do it because I have a voice. I think I can do it because God is calling me to
God has called
ministry.
you to this. This is actually a purpose.
Exactly.
You said something when you're talking to us about your journey, and this is that aspect of believing in yourself that you didn't think you could do it at the time. You were shy.
Yes.
I just want you to talk to us very briefly about that, because it becomes sort of those things that is more like a deterrent for people that have talent to do things. They know they can do this, but they feel like, how will I go about it? How will I do it? And do it? And you see, sometimes it just makes you not even make it in life. Not believing in yourself, not believing in your capabilities. Talk to us a bit about that.
Okay, for me, I wish I was, I don't wish, I grew up in an environment where, Ushago people don't understand about talents and all those things. So if you tell somebody, I remember telling my cousin, we were discussing, and she was like, I want to be a lawyer. And I told her, she laughed. She was like, what are you saying? And the way you are shy. Wow. And I'm like, so that thing by the ilinisumbua sana, I was like, no, I have to do it. I have to prove her wrong.
So sometimes also telling your dreams to the wrong person.
Exactly. She really discouraged me, and I was like, it's okay. But me, I believed in myself, and I nilikata hizo words, and I was like, I know I can do it. So when you are in shock, like nobody can really hold your hand, because I grew up with a grandmother. You see, grandmothers in Ile Sunday to the church, we pray, we hold hands, we pray in the evening and all that. So when I came to Nairobi, I was like, so kumbe people can kuna these groups of singing. So I joined several bands, and in those bands, I believe I was the youngest. So I just sat back, and I wanted to learn, and I believe that is what has made me who I am today. Yes.
So actually you can, even in as much as, yes, that may be an issue, but just more like push yourself to it, because just from your story, it's like you as much as, yes, they said you can, because you can't because you're shy, at least it's like going that extra mile, pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, you have to. You have to really push yourself
to do it.
Because you see, guys, people will not even believe in you. And then when you start maybe showing maybe some results, they'll be like, we knew you'll make it. And you're like,
but you weren't even supporting my craft.
But you say things.
Okay, and keep going. Now let's talk about your song, your first single, Unishike Mkono. That is the one. So how was it when we were releasing it? How was the reception like?
My first song, when I did that song, the guys were happy. The guys who were around me in my church, guys were like, now this is what we've been waiting for. Now you can do it. Now, but you see, now by that time, I had not really known about social media platforms, YouTube channels, and all those things. I just did it. I was just like, okay, let me just do this song. I see how it will go. So
how will it turn out?
How it will turn out, yeah. So I did that song, and guys told me, you're really waiting for the next song. And I was like, no, I don't think I can do it. Let me take time and just think about what I want to do and the reason why I'm doing this. So I took about several years, 3-4 years. That's when I now did my second song, after a very long time.
After a long time.
Yeah, that time, it's not like I was just seated.
Doing nothing.
I was learning. I was in bands, I was singing in bands, but I was really at the back. I really didn't want to be on the forefront. So I was just at the back.
So for you, it was more like a learning curve.
It was a learning curve, and I just wanted to listen from God. Where do you want to take me? What do you think I can do? So after that time, the voice was so strong. It was very strong. And then I felt like, I think now this is time.
This is
because even the songs I did, it took me a long time before I did the videos. You see, you go record a song and you're like, unaiacha studio. So even my producer could call me like, hizi songs ukuja uzitoe hapa. I don't want these songs zinanijazia nini. And I'm like, I'll just come. Because sikuwa na hiyo conviction sana. I was like, But when I started doing it, things
flow. So again, also that is very important aspect.
Very important.
And I think also that is what probably brings that difference between a gospel artist, gospel minister. Like, you need to really be sure this is what God is calling you to do.
You can just record even 1,000 songs. There are those people who have 1,000 songs. And let me tell you, I always say, I don't have a voice. I go to events, I go to churches, and people sing, and I'm like, I think
this one is gifted.
Gifted. Ni favor. Favor and grace are different things. You might have a voice, you can even do 1,000 songs, but they are not getting anywhere. But you see, that is also God's timing.
Yeah, okay.
It will just come at time when God says, now this is your time.
This is it.
Just one simple thing.
And that's it.
take you to nations, will take you, everybody will just get to know you.
Oh,
But
okay.
if it's not your time, we are also graced differently. There's somebody who can just come, you can just start singing right now, and then you see your song is a hit. And you're like, oh, me, I've been singing for the past 5-6 years and nothing has been happening.
I guess
How
also
comes
that
this
brings
girl-
out that aspect of patience.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about a bit later. But let's stick a bit with your first song, Unishike Mkono. Tell us about the concept, the inspiration behind it.
Unishike Mkono came in 2016. I recorded in 2017. You see, that's where I had just finished high school. I'm a young girl. You see now guys are coming. You see now things are just happening. And you're like, God, what is happening? So you are like, I remember it was just at night in my mom's house, and I sat. I am a late night person, by the way.
Yeah.
So during those late nights, I take time to think. And just the chorus came. I was just like, Unishike Mkono, I don't want like to fall. Just hold my hand. Because if I don't depend on you, I'll just crash. So the chorus came, and I went to the studio, did the stanzas, and that was it. That's how the song came out.
That's how the song
Yeah,
came.
because you are now a teenager. A lot of things are happening around you. Peer pressure. Guys are in relationship. Your friends are married even with kids. And you're like, guys are asking you what's not happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I think I just need you. So yeah, that's how the song came.
That's how the song came about. Yes. And I really would have loved my director to like give me a couple of other more 5 minutes, because I feel like there's quite a lot we need to exhaust. But let's talk about your song Salama, which at least you did after now that long a break.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that one.
After Unishike Mkono,
yes.
I did Ushindi.
Okay.
Mwaminifu, that is. There's a song Mwaminifu before now Salama. Salama is the latest.
Salama is the latest one.
Yes, I have Mwaminifu. I did maybe around 3-4 months ago. Then I came. Salama is around 2 months ago. So, yeah, Salama.
Your latest one now.
Pardon?
Your latest.
My latest.
Yes.
Yeah, Salama is quite a song that is so close to my heart.
Why?
It's because when I was doing this song, I really didn't know it will minister to me this year. I did the song like 2 years back. I recorded 2 years back. So I was like, ukiwa tunayosi ni salama. As in, it is just well.
It's easy, when you are at peace.
You are at peace. But you see, by the time I was doing that song, I really didn't know kuna time it will minister to me. So this year, when I was doing planning the video and all that, I sat down and it hit me. You are doing this song for this season. You are not doing it for that season. And yeah, it is just so close to my heart.
So close to your heart.
Yes.
Now, Mercy, due to the interest of time, as we finish up, what would you tell, especially upcoming gospel I would like to call them gospel artists, because they also refer to themselves as that way. So what would you like to tell such upcoming, gospel artists, especially in regards to patience, very briefly as we wind up?
Patience is a virtue, of which you have. If you have it, you have something more than gold with you. As in, just learn to be patient. Or learn also to be committed in what you do. Don't let anybody discourage you. You can do it. It doesn't matter who is for you, who is not for you. Just do it. There are few people who will support you, and there are others who will not. So don't focus on the negative energy. Just focus on the positive energy. Be patient. It might take time.
All right.
Others take a very long time.
All
but
right.
with God, all things are possible.
Okay. Yes. Be patient. That is Mercy Ivy talking to us about her gospel journey as well as the evolution in gospel industry. And that is where we bring it to a close this morning. We wrap it up with her latest song. My name is Dorina Range. Good morning.
Salama,
centered on the need to provide the Kenyan youth with the right platform to express their artistic and entrepreneurial skills, the 8th edition of Cake Art Affair event was a buzz of activities that expressed visual art in all its forms.
Cake Art Affair is an art event whereby we incorporate all types of art, from baking to visual arts to spoken art like spoken word, poetry and musical performances as well. So we incorporate all types of art.
Sampling different cakes that came in all shapes, color and flavor is perhaps where the Cake Art Affair name originated from. Nevertheless, the event offered more than just that. Those with entrepreneurial mindset had the opportunity of a lifetime to mix business with pleasure.
Our main aim and vision is to raise youth entrepreneurs, because the current society we are in this country, like most of the youth are unemployed. We go to campus, colleges with the hope of getting jobs, but there are no jobs. So we want to create that entrepreneurial culture whereby guys can find their passion and they can they can make money out of it. So if even our artists, like the music artists, you find that they are not the mainstream artists. We find the good underground artists who have a passion for what they are doing, and we give them our stage to express themselves in whatever way. We have our visual artists who come and display their work, and our bakers, which is like the major part of the event. We have home bakers. Most of our bakers are bakers who are baking from home. So we present this platform for them to put themselves out there, like to the audience. We have like 1,000+ people in the same venue, so they put themselves out there, they give out their samples, they network, and they get business from it. So it's all about creating the entrepreneurial culture and sensitizing the youth on how to depend on themselves.
Artistic and customized cakes, paintings, bags, shoes, bracelets, earrings and scarves were up for grabs from bubbly upcoming entrepreneurs. Even though most of them were attending for the first time, their creativity was hard to ignore.
Most of them are acrylics on canvas. I am currently focusing on acrylics on canvas because I want to do oil as well, oil on canvas, but that kind of takes a bit of time. So, and right now, since I'm still studying, I cannot really do both of them. I can't put as much effort as I want to put in the oil. So I mainly do acrylics on canvas, and most of them currently I'm focusing on Africanism, basically just the African culture, specifically the African woman, because most of my painting, there's one that's a meter by meter, and then there's this other one also. Those are my favorite, personally. I did that last year, but yeah, they mainly, I think it's just appreciating the African woman and the African beauty as well.
At our stand, we have crafted jewelry, it's handmade, and we also have customized bottles. It's upcycled glass bottles. So instead of disposing them off, most especially it's the liquor bottles. So I take them and clean them up, then get designs, revamp them, anything. I can write things on them. If it's a name, a message, yeah, whatever someone would want, I put it on the bottle, and in whichever color.
I do customized cakes depending on the theme of the customers. For this particular one, I went with a Drake themed cake. So I use edible image with Drake's image on top, as you can see, and the dollar bill signs. So it depends on the theme. So if a customer would like a cake that's themed, like let's say Game of Thrones, according to any theme. So my inspiration for this particular cake was Drake and music. Yeah.
While the first few editions were randomly organized, the 8th edition was off the hook given the amount of thought, time and energy that was injected in the planning and execution.
We've had like major progress since we started. We started with a group of like 20 people. It was just a normal hangout, guys, artists coming to Arboretum and doing their acoustic jam sessions and poetry. And people asked for another, it was a random thing. So guys were like, this could actually become a thing. So we had a second one whereby we had like 50 people, then we had a third one, which it was 100 people. And the first 3 editions, they weren't like a concert-based event. They were just like gatherings of people at Arboretum, whereby people used to come with snacks and some cake. We used to cut cakes. They share while we share the art together. So after the August edition in 2015, we had like 100 people. Then we noticed like guys had trouble listening to the performances. So we're like, by the way, this could become like an actual thing. So in October 2015, that's when we had like our first concert-based event in this particular grounds, whereby we had the stage, sound, and everything, the tents, vendors. That's when we had like the official Kekata Fair in October 2015. So from there, the progress has been gradual, but we've been growing each edition. We've been learning and all that.
Underground musicians and live bands offered electrifying performances that the Generation X and Y were not strangers to.
Holy water, when this fire, pour me water, holy water, make it quench this fire.
Given the season that the event is held in, the weather possesses a big challenge, and in this edition it was no different.
It's nice. The only bad thing is because it's raining, but it's okay. Tons of cakes, I don't know, but I think I've had enough for now because I've eaten too much. I've probably gone to all the stands right now, yeah.
We are overwhelmed by the turnout. We thought guys wouldn't come because of the weather, but we have seen people dancing actually in the rain. And for the turnout, bakers, the previous events, we had 12 bakers. This time we have 27 bakers. So like the turnout is amazing. For the visual artists, we usually have like 4. This time we have 20 plus and guys from beadworks and all that. So like the turnout is amazing. Like we're so excited and we are hoping to be able to maintain the same crowd and also to grow our audience, because we believe that it's not only the youth that need to be inspired, we want to inspire everyone. Like we want to have a diverse audience, because there are also older people who like just are there in their cocoon, so we want them to also think outside the box and join the arts.
Those who attended the event were definitely impressed and left yearning for more. The team behind the Cake Art Affair event could only aim to make the next edition more compelling.
Yes, I would like to come to the next one because this is a nice event. You get to chill out with people you've never met, you get to experience new things, and it's a good event because people like Dion's Cake House, they come here, they market themselves, and you get cards, you market your business, and I think it's a good idea because if people need to know about you, now they know about you. Yeah.
It's always a boost because in the end, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Any publicity is actually good, and this is publicity because you get to meet other artists as well, and then you get to interact with other people because the turnout is actually good. So people, when they pass by your stand, you interact with them, you give them your business cards, and so in a way, your business actually kind of grows. So next year I'll definitely be here. This is my first time here actually, but the next year I'll definitely be here again because, as I said, it's a matter of building yourself and promoting the African art, because I believe Kenyan art is a bit undermined. more so Kenyan ornaments and Kenyan, jewelry. Because if you go out there, if you go to the States, they sell them at, quite expensively. But over here, locally, we actually sell them at, some very low prices. So I believe it actually made me grow. Because how I started is not how I am right now. Yeah, but we hope for the best.
Definitely to eat cake, and I'm impressed by the designers, the cake designers, and also to sell myself. Considering it's my first time, yeah, I'm expecting to sell myself, create a target market.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Most people have not been infected and remain susceptible. And the highly transmissible disease has surged in recent weeks. How do we live with it safely? Combating endemic diseases requires long-range thinking, sustained efforts, and international coordination. Such efforts take time, money, and most of all, political will.
The date for the FA Cup final is set, and so are we, as Arsenal and Chelsea face off again on the 1st of August at Wembley. The All London affair will be broadcast live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 this Saturday from 7:30 p.m.
Cesar Azpilicueta again for Giroud. Oh, and it's found a way through.
Heads up. It is a showdown worth your wait.
The principal object of the bill is to amend the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. This is in order to provide for guarantees by the Cabinet Secretary for loans advanced to micro, small, and medium enterprises. The bill consists of 5 clauses. And just to mention the clauses, Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title of the bill. Clause number 3 of the bill provides for the amendment of Section 32 of the Act to provide for the information that the Cabinet Secretary shall give Parliament on requests relating to guarantees on credit extended to micro, small, and medium enterprises. The amendment is intended to align the information provided to Parliament on request to the information required to be given under the proposed Section 59A. Also lined up for debate in today's National Assembly's morning session is the County Law Compliance and Enforcement Bill, Senate Bill number 25 of 2018. The House will also be considering the debate a bill on the preservation of human dignity and enforcement of economic and social rights bill, Senate Bill number 27 of 2018. The bill, currently in its second reading, is by the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources will be moving a motion on the inquiry into the status of dams in Kenya. That this House adopts the report on Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on an inquiry into the status of dam in Kenya, laid on the table of the House on October 17, 2019. In the notices section, a number of notices have been lined up in today's order paper. One of them is the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill number 2, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2020, that the notice is hereby given by the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, intending to move the following amendments to the Public Finance Management Bill, which is at the committee stage. On your screens is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, making his way into the chamber. I'll now hand you over for the live proceedings. My name is Gladys Mungai. Enjoy your viewing, and good morning.
Honorable members, let's pray. Almighty God, with your wisdom and goodness, have appointed the officers of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Under that particular order, we'll start with questions, and we'll start with questions by private notice. Starting us off is the Honorable Martin Owino, member for Dewa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 42A5, I rise to ask question number 15 of 2020. This question goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. Roman 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why MS Sukari Industry Limited in their constituency is not purchasing sugar from sugarcane farmers in Homa Bay County, having promoted sugarcane farming in the area, thereby neglecting the said farmers and their produce? Roman 2, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary undertake to investigate the allegations that MS Sukari Industry Limited imports sugar at the expense of the developing or production of sugar from local sugar farmers in their constituency? Last one, very important, number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain measures in place that encourage sugar millers, such as Sukari Industry Limited?
Which one is that? I'm trying to follow you.
That's number 3.
Number 3.
Yes.
Do you have the order paper, Honorable Member Fondiwa? Because what I'm seeing is different from what you are asking.
Mr. Speaker, this is what I was sent to by the table room.
Now, you have done the first 2. Now,
Yes.
the 3 is the one which is starting with what the policy is regarding private sugar millers.
Yes,
is that yours? Is that what you have?
Exactly, but it was updated according to the paper I have.
Proceed. Maybe you put a little flowers to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that. It's regarding policy, actually. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain measures in place that encourage sugar millers such as Sukari Industry Limited to maintain access roads in their areas of operation as a corporate social responsibility? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that one will be replied to before the departmental committee on agriculture and livestock. But as that question is answered, the Honorable Member Fondiwa, it will be answered as is in the order paper, because that is the one which was approved. Very good. Now, and for members, I want to encourage members to sit in designated seats. I want to encourage them to sit in designated seats, because those are the areas where the advice has been given by the health personnel in terms of issues of social spacing. So please sit on designated seats. I really don't want to mention names, but I can see one violator. But we'll proceed. Next is... no, I'm not so sure. Now, we will go to the member for Nyeri County, Honorable Mukami Washira, Rahab.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask questions regarding people with disability. What is the criteria used in determining the beneficiary of the persons with disability fund in the country, and particularly in Nyeri County? When will the 11,000 beneficiaries of the persons with disability fund in Nyeri County be paid, noting that they have not been paid despite having been registered? Could the Cabinet Secretary explain how households with more than one person with severe disability, orphans, and vulnerable children are facilitated to receive funds under the cash transfer program? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. And then we'll go to the next one. Now that is the questions, ordinary questions. We will start off with the member for Kadiani, Honorable Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 110 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development, and Public Works. First, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the inordinate delays in the implementation of the upgrading of Keno, Mitaboni, Kadhiani to Kaani Road to bitumen standards, yet funds were allocated for the same? 2, what is the current status of the contract in view of the fact that the completion dates have since lapsed and the project is yet to be completed? 3, what measures are in place to ensure speedy completion of the said road, and when is this project expected to be completed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Next is the member for Kaloleni, Honorable Paul Katana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 114 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Planning. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why funds earmarked from implementation of various projects under the Equalization Fund as completed under Article 204(2) of the Constitution have not been disbursed for the last 4 consecutive financial years, that is 2016, 2017 to 2019 to 2020. Yet most projects in schools, health facilities, roads, and water provisions across the country have stalled. When will the funds be disbursed to various ministries and departments to enable revival of the stalled projects and ensure their completion? Thank you.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Luckily, the chair is seated very close to where you are posing your question. Now, let's go to the member for Butere constituency, Honorable Tindi Mwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 121 of 2020. And this question, Mr. Speaker, goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. The question goes, Mr. Speaker, when will the ministry deploy more police officers to Butere constituency, considering the reduced number as a result of the transition of administration police officers to the Kenya Police Service in the Butere constituency? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Then we go to the member for Emuhaya, Honorable Omboko Milemba. And from my records, Honorable Tindi, you have a seat. You seem to have come from elsewhere, but you have a seat in the chamber. I believe that is the one designated to you. Okay.
Thank you.
And we are about 15 minutes after the hour. In fact, we are slightly more than that. So we must start giving out the chairs that have not occupied.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would wish to ask question number 123 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why technical and vocational education and training, in bracket TVET trainers, were transferred from Teachers Service Commission payroll to the Public Service Commission in February, March 2019, without having in place a scheme?
Just for record, Honorable Member for Emuhaya, is it 2020 or 2019?
Honorable Speaker, I have been in the table room for about 40 minutes, and there were quite a number of errors. So we did
Position
correct.
Is 2019.
2019. We did
Okay.
correct with them, and they asked me to put it here. They will be correcting as they take it to the
That
Cabinet.
is okay. That is okay.
Thank you. Commission in February, March 2019, without having in place a scheme of service for the said trainers, causing them to miss out on their phase 3 and phase 4 of the Teachers Service Commission scheme of service under the collective bargaining agreement of 2016. Number 2, why the said trainers were not issued with new employment appointment letters upon being transferred from the Teacher Service Commission payroll to the Public Service Commission. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
This one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research, but I noticed that there are quite a number of modifications and additions by the member. They should be captured on this particular one. But in future, should there be issues that really add quite a number of matters into a question that has already been disbursed to the ministries, the better way is to put it to the next sitting and make the question appear in the order paper as required. But on this one, we will use the Hansard to capture it. So let's proceed to the next one. That is the member for Tarbaj, Honorable Bashane Gal.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask question 126 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Question 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary give the status of provision of water to residents of Tarbaj constituency? 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary give the reasons for delays in the implementation of Tarbaj water supply project in Tarbaj constituency? 3. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain what caused the elevated steel water tank for the said project to collapse twice and give the measures taken by the Ministry to ensure that the tank is constructed to the set standards and becomes operational? 4. Could the Cabinet Secretary confirm that the Northern Water Board is competent enough to manage this project and other similar water projects, similar future projects? 5. What measures are in place to ensure that the project is completed as soon as possible? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. And that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. The last question this morning is by the member for Kinango, Honorable Benjamin Dalu Stephen Tayari. That looks like two members in one.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question 127 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Forestry. Roman 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain how and who authorized for quarry mining in Mwache Forest, despite the area having been listed as a gazetted forest? Roman 2, what measures are in place to ensure urgent rehabilitation of destroyed sections of the forest area is carried out with a view to ensuring its restoration? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Then we go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Refugees Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2019. Second reading question to be put.
This one had been finalized, debate had been finalized. What remained was a question to be put. And having confirmed that we have the required quorum within this chamber and the holding areas, I proceed to put the question, which is that the Refugee Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the recognition, protection, and management of refugees, to give effect to the 1951 United Nations Conventions relating to the status of refugees, the 1967 Protocol relating to the status of refugees, and the 1969 OAU Convention governing the specific aspects of refugee problems in Africa, and for connected purposes. Order number 9, Committee of the Whole House.
Order members, we are now in the Committee of the Whole, a fairly straightforward bill here. The Public Finance Management Amendment number 2, Bill 2020. I guess we'll take not very many minutes on this.
Clause 2.
Honorable members, I propose a question that Clause 2 be part of the bill. There's a proposed amendment, right? Yes, Honorable Wanga.
Thank you, Chair.
As a chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I beg to move that Clause 2 be amended as proposed in the order paper. Honorable Chair, this is basically just cleaning up that clause, because what it says is currently the bill says the annual turnover, the definition of a micro enterprise, that the annual turnover does not exceed 100 million, but it does not provide for a lower limit. The upper limit for a small enterprise is 5 million. So we are just including that now the range will be between 5 million and 100 million. It does not fundamentally for the medium enterprise. So for small, the upper limit is 5 million. So we are saying for medium, the range should be from 5 million to 100 million. So there's no major alteration. It's just a cleaning up of that. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Honorable members, I propose a question that Clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Honorable members, I now put the question that Clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that Clause 2, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Yes, Honorable Malwa, what is your point of order? What is your seat number there? Let me give you.
Down there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Mr. Chairman, what the Chair of Finance, Honorable Wanga, has just proposed, there's no really demarcation. It should have been more than 5 million, but less than 100.
Order, Honorable Malwa. Are you speaking on the clause that the House has just made a decision on?
Yeah, because you wanted clarity. There's a problem. There's a confusion.
Order, members. If you wanted
but you are not seeing. I had put intervention, but you're not seeing.
Very well, Honorable Malwa. If you wanted an intervention on this, to be returned, there is a procedure of returning it. The House has made a decision, Honorable Malwa.
But it should be up to 5 million, and it should be more than 5 million, but less than 100 million. That clarity needs to be there. Malwa, yes.
There is a procedure of returning the clause if you want it returned.
Clause 3.
Honorable members, I propose a question that Clause 3 be part of the bill. There is a proposed amendment. Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I beg to move that Clause 3 be amended as proposed in the order paper. Chair, it's just another cleanup for consistency, because what the published bill says is, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 2, the Cabinet Secretary shall, with respect to credit guarantees extended to private borrowers who are micro, small, or medium enterprises, provide the information specified in section 59A2 when Parliament makes a request. But the preceding clause speaks to when the houses of any of the houses of Parliament, or either of the houses of Parliament. So we are just cleaning that clause so that it is consistent with the preceding clause. I beg to move, Chair.
Honorable members, I propose a question that Clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Chair. I now put the question that Clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Order, members. Honorable Kanini, you must give space to Honorable Majority Leader so that he can vote. And all the other members. I will take that again. Honorable members, I now put the question that Clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that Clause 3, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
I propose a question that Clause 4 be part of the bill. Honorable Chair, you have an amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I beg to move that clause 4 be amended as provided in the or proposed in the order paper. Honorable Chair, clause 4 as drafted had some drafting challenges because it does not come out expressly, because what it says is that if you look at clause 4, subsection 5 there, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 2C, in the case of a private borrower to whom credit is extended for enterprise development or other purpose as may be prescribed by the Cabinet Secretary and does not have sufficient security for the loan, the Cabinet Secretary shall not guarantee the credit extended to such a borrower under subsection 1 unless, and so on. So what we want to say is actually what the Cabinet Secretary may do, not what he may not, what he may do. So the redrafting is to provide for what the Cabinet Secretary may guarantee. So the redrafted one says it's been divided into 2 portions. Notwithstanding provisions of subsection 2C, the Cabinet Secretary may guarantee. Now we are saying they may guarantee credit which is extended to a private borrower for enterprise development or such other purpose as the Cabinet Secretary may prescribe, where the borrower does not have sufficient security. Then B, it now gives the conditions under B. So what we've done there is clean it up, but also add a few conditionalities. And one of those is that the micro, small, and medium enterprise that is being guaranteed should be a registered business or company under the relevant laws. Because what we had earlier was only that registered by county governments. And then what we've also added is a registered taxpayer and is in compliance with the relevant tax laws. What we had earlier there is the borrower has complied with the relevant tax laws. And we've also added one more part, part E there, which is not part of any group or related to any enterprise which would otherwise not be eligible for the credit guarantee under this section. What that does is protects the MSMEs from large enterprises which will now decide to register micro enterprises related to them for purposes of benefiting from this credit guarantee. So that is what it protects there. So thank you. I beg to move, Chair.
Honourable members, I propose the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the Chair. Yes, let's have 2 members. Honourable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. And I may not be as excited as Honourable Kaluma, who is taking photos of the first female chairperson of Finance Committee. But anyway, Honourable Chair, I really did not understand these changes of guarantee and so on, Honourable Chair, because it may be open to abuse, especially what happened in the guarantee of loan in AFC in the early 1980s and 1990s. The government had to clear the AFC loan because it was guaranteed based on tribal lines and who is who in that particular administration at that time. So I still think the chair should come out clear. How will we protect the government from guaranteeing individuals, especially based on tribal lines? Thank you very much, Chair.
Honourable Chair, I'll give you a stab on it, but before then, Honourable Makali.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Chair. I want to say, even as I support this amendment, I need to make just the following observations for record purposes. Honourable Chair, I think even as we want to make sure that the money goes to the smart micro enterprises, it is important that we don't open gates where the money could end up in the wrong people, with the wrong people and basically the wrong institutions. So, Honourable Chair, what I would propose is, even as we are giving the Cabinet Secretary a lot of powers, and I think during the second reading we did say that it would be important if, as we go to the implementation phase, people could start thinking of a board which will be approving some of these things, rather than just an individual. Because in the past, such powers have been abused, and we need to make sure that they are not abused a second time. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Very well. Before Honourable Bui, let's have Honourable Minority Leader.
Chair, I want to support these amendments. One, I think I agree with the committee completely and the chair that really you need to define what
the cabinet secretary is supposed to do, not what he's not supposed to do, because leaving it too open, and in matters of finance, you need to be clear on what are the conditions that would allow the micros, small and medium enterprises to qualify for the loan. So I think that, to me, is tight enough. There is also the part B, where now it is clear on women, youth, and persons with disabilities need special consideration. But GA, the new GA, the maximum percentage of the scheme funds which may be used to guarantee any individual borrower, I agree with that, but I just hope that in the regulations we should try also to spell out the percentage guarantee that can be given to an individual borrower out of the requirement, so that each individual borrower, we also determine how much the maximum that can be guaranteed. Otherwise, if you just leave it open, then some people may even ask for far too much beyond what their capacity is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support.
Honorable Bui, we can have two other members and we make progress. Honorable Chair, I'll give you a second stab on this towards the end. Honorable Bui.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I wish to say that, this is a point at which this law is actually being made. And we have to be very, very careful how we handle this part, and maybe we be careful not to rush it. I know that there is a bit of pressure to finish off. So when the chair was given an opportunity, she's explained it very well. But this last part that the minority leader has raised is very critical, because I think what you've done is really commendable, because you've basically, not only have you in the first part stated the groups that should benefit and those that cannot, and how to avoid it, to have people benefiting indirectly, you've also specified how this money should actually be shared. Because you've said that there has to be a maximum percentage of the scheme that may be given to any individual person, which makes a lot of sense. Then the mechanisms for access to this money, which is important, and you've mentioned the women and the youth, which is also legal, and people with disabilities. And then even mechanisms for recovering the money. I think these are things that are very, very important, and the period within which, period of default of 6 months. So I think basically, I was just saying that the chair needs to be given time to explain our amendments properly so that we don't rush as we contribute. Thank you.
Very well, honorable members. Let's make progress on this, but seems to have a bit of interest. If we could get 1 minute each, then I give the chair. I'll give you majority leader, but before majority leader, allow me to give Honorable Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Mr. Chairman, I have a problem with this particular law. I'm happy the gracious Chair has been able to explain, but I think there is very little safeguard in terms of the law that is suggested before us. If you go to C, D, and E, actually it's so nebulous. This is taxpayers' money that will be available to individuals, to groups, companies. And if there is no safeguard, really, it is like throwing away good money. And we need to really be seized of that matter. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I think there's I obviously support the amendment, which is an enrichment of the bill. I actually see from the comments made by the members that there is a misunderstanding.
Honorable Majority Leader. Yeah. There's very high note consultation. There are members who are consulting very loudly outside. Honorable Sankoko is calling it high voltage consultation. Could the Sergeant at Arms let the members consult in lower tone, those who are outside the chamber? Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think I see two bits of confusion that members may be reacting to. One,
is that the Chair of Finance has only moved Part A, not B. So we are debating something that has not been moved and explained. Then number two is also that, and I think we raised this, we brought this out during the second reading, this is not a fund to be distributed or dished out. This is a credit guarantee scheme that is available for people who borrow from the banks, and the government undertakes to borrow to guarantee in case of a default, right? And typically, if you think of the number of defaulters, will be about in the order of 10% of the borrowers. So the government is only saying, if one falls within that 10%, they will guarantee to the bank that that defaulter will be paid for from the money. So the banks can then multiply. So it's not money being distributed like the Wezo Fund or the Women Fund. This is money being put aside to guarantee a potential defaulter. There may never be a defaulter, especially with the safeguards that were there in the bill and what the committee has added. And members may need to look at the bill plus the addition to appreciate the full safeguards that are being put there, which I'm very happy with.
Very well, Honorable Majority Leader, given that guidance, Honorable Tidi, don't you want the chair to speak to this? If you could then have 1 minute, then we make progress on this really.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the amendment. Mr. Speaker, considering the fact that this amendment is going to favor people who are just freshly starting business, especially the youth and the women, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have had situations where bureaucracy has always made the youth and the women not to do very well in business, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I just want to ask my colleagues to accept this amendment, because this amendment is going to give those startup entrepreneurs an opportunity to grow their business, and overall, the economy of the Republic will grow. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support the amendment. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, if you could take a second stab and explain yourself to all the sub-clauses under that clause 4.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to thank the members because they have debated it well. It is me who inadvertently did not explain the amendments in Part B, but I should have before I moved. So let me just explain that in Clause 8 of the bill, or sub-clause 8, where it provides that the Cabinet Secretary shall prescribe regulations for operation of the scheme under subsection 7, which shall provide for the following. So those are provided in the bill, but we are adding that in doing the regulations, the Cabinet Secretary should also look at the maximum percentage of the scheme funds which may be used to guarantee an individual borrower. And here we are trying to deal with the concern of members that some large borrowers can take majority of the money, and then the micro enterprises end up with nothing. And then we have also said there that we must have mechanisms to ease access to credit guarantees by enterprises owned by women, youth, and persons with disabilities. And I'm sure nominee 001 will agree with me on that one. Honorable Chair, mechanisms for recovering the money from the borrower where the credit guarantee is liquidated. There were lots of concerns raised of people getting the guarantee, and then the guarantee is liquidated and they just walk away. So here, there must be mechanisms within the regulations to know that if you default and the government guarantee is liquidated, you don't just walk away scot-free. We must find mechanisms of recovering that money so that the contingent liability for government is also not raised unnecessarily. Honorable Chair, and a limit period of default to a maximum of 6 months, just so that there is not too much room for people to default and keep staying away. And so, Chair, I just wanted to explain that, and also just to say to the Honorable Makali, the concerns that he raised both in the second reading and now, there is the MSMEs Authority, which is already up and running, and they will definitely have a role in how this scheme is rolled out. So I think that is already covered. So thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Very well, Honorable Members. I now put the question that Clause 4 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 4, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 5.
I propose the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. We have an amendment, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, clause 5 is basically about reporting, and there were many concerns raised by members as to the issue of reporting. Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Leader. I beg to move that clause 5 be amended as proposed in the order paper. And now I explain the import. Thank you, Leader, for shepherding me along. It's my maiden...
you are doing very well, Honorable Chair, so far.
Thank you. So what we are saying is, in reporting, we would like to have the Cabinet Secretary providing not just aggregated information, but information disaggregated by providing the information on the total value of the credit guarantees, disaggregated into the number of enterprises owned by women, youth, and persons with disabilities, which have been guaranteed, just so that we know and we hold the Cabinet Secretary accountable to those guarantees that have been provided. And then B, information on the total value of credit guarantees disaggregated into the number of micro, small, and medium enterprises, because we don't want a situation where the medium enterprises have taken everything and the micro enterprises have taken nothing. But also, we want that by respective regions, because this was an issue that was raised a lot in the second reading, that guarantees can go to just one place. So we would like that report to disaggregate how this has been done and by region. Chair, I beg to move.
Honorable members, I propose a question. All the members, let me propose a question first. Then I'll give you, I'll give two members or so. I propose a question that clause 5 be amended as proposed by the chair. Can we have just a few members? Let's start with the minority leader, Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Chairman, let me thank and congratulate the committee for bringing this amendment. Mr. Chairman, when we were contributing the second reading of this bill, actually I talked about possibility of the Cabinet Secretary having been given a lot of powers to this bill, which, looking back again, I say may be necessary, but there is need for accountability, because we have previously had cases where people were put in public offices favoring certain regions with public resources in terms of allocation. And so if the committee has brought this amendment, I'm very happy and excited that at least now there will be disclosure of how much goes where, and even to disaggregate it in terms of small enterprises, medium, and micro enterprises, and also to find out how many youths and how many women enterprises and those enterprises owned by persons living with disabilities have benefited from this guarantee. Because this is the scheme is being set up from public funds. So I just wanted to say congratulations to the committee. Thank you very much for a job well done in bringing this amendment.
Honorable Majority Whip, because of the interest, I will get a few more members to speak to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to thank...
Sorry, I inadvertently gave you a mic. You get your chance, but now it's Honorable Angwe.
Thank you. Chair, I want to thank the committee through the chair for this amendment, and I want to support it. Why I want to support it, Honorable Chair, is the issue where most of the cabinet secretaries do not disclose what is happening under their control. And Honorable Chair, the committee has considered this, and reading it together with the Article 35 of the Constitution on disclosure of information, Honorable Chair, this will give the country and the people a wider knowledge on what is actually happening, where has the money gone, The money will not go to one region, but the money belongs to the entire country, and everyone, regardless of his status, will be able to know what has been used and where. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Maro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. I want to thank the committee for that particular amendment, Mr. Chairman. Indeed, it's going to confirm whether there is accountability and matters of integrity. How I had wished, Mr. Chairman, because there was a critical segmentation in terms of elderly, the youth, the women, how I had wished that there was also for elderly, because elderly, Mr. Chairman, they're also endangered. And I'm saying this because you remember this money that they've been giving out to the elderly. Even in some regions, we are told they receive certain amount, other regions it's not. So the issue of bringing that regional balancing, we can be able to look into it and see whether there is aspect of accountability, the face of Kenya, and what have you. Otherwise, I support the amendment, Mr. Chairman. I thank you.
Honorable Pukose. What's your...
Chair, thank you, Chair. Chair, I stand to support this amendment. Chair, you find that even with the passage of the law to guarantee that we give 30% to the youths, women, and the people with disability, that has not been happening within, because you'll find that more often they've been given work that even when you ask ministries to account for the 30%, whether it has been given to youth, it is a very gray area. So I think with this kind of an amendment, it will be able, this is an improvement in the right direction. And going even further to explain that we must also disaggregate, even indicate the regions, so that each region is able to benefit. And I think that is the way we should be able to move as a country. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Masara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support this amendment, Mr. Chairman, because one, information is power. And through this amendment, the information will be availed for people to make a decision. As well, the amendment is going to increase what's called fairness in terms of distribution, since the people concerned will be aware that information regarding how it was guarantee was distributed will be out in public. Therefore, there will be fairness. Chairman, I want to say that this amendment also will correct some historical injustices which has been done, because when we talk about regions, if we go back and look at the history of how AFC funds were distributed, you realize that some areas never benefited. But with such amendment and put in place in the bill, all regions, I believe, I suppose, will benefit from such a fund. I really thank the committee through their chair for making this amendment a reality. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Tim Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want just to support the committee for this amendment, Mr. Speaker, especially now that persons with disabilities are guaranteed, and also that mention of regions, it just spreads out the benefit to the whole country. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment.
Honorable members, why don't we make progress on this relay? Let's. Let me give two members. Yes, there is interest. Let me give. Start with the honorable member standing. It's not you that I'm giving. It is Honorable Ogutu.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to thank the committee for considering this particular portion on reporting. I have no problem, Chair, with the category that must be covered in the section on reporting. But I have only one major problem on an element that has excited everybody in this floor. That is bringing in the region. Chair, I notice that we are bringing in the region on reporting, but we have not also demanded the CS when when the funds are being dispersed, that the element of return comes up. You can't report what you have not demanded. So I think, Chair, mine will be like we have to think about that line. Two is that we have also to be very clear whether the CS is also helping this country to work towards clear targets. So I'm very sure that the committee may want to look at this and maybe come up with targets so that we are able to hold the CS accountable. I support, Chair. Thank you.
Two more members, Honorable Gekaria.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank the committee for bringing up this amendment. But, Honorable Chair, the amendment as it is talks about information, but it doesn't give a time frame. Is it quarterly? Is it half yearly? Is it yearly? And I think it is important for us to have, because sometimes, Honorable Chair, as we seek for accountability and other things, then we must. So it's up to the committee to make its responsibility, maybe, and be asking for this kind of information, say quarterly or half yearly. There is no much information that will be given after a long time, and the mess has already been done. So we would wish to have a period under which this information should be availed to the committee for purposes of correcting the things that we want to be corrected. Otherwise, if you have an information for a whole 1 year and the mess has already happened, then we cannot be able to help. Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I support the amendment.
Honorable Gekaria, I'm not speaking for the chair, but I thought Section 59A2 says once every year.
I stand guided. Thank you,
Yes,
Honorable
yes.
Chair. Thank you.
Yes.
As and when we request.
As when the House requests. Let me get this member who, with a mask, I can't tell. Oh, yes, Honorable Atadi, sorry. With a mask.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Let me begin by congratulating the new Chair for Finance for such an intelligent presentation in this bill. Chair, I want to go straight and support the amendments. But, Chair, I like the safeguards that have been put on the question of ensuring that there's regional reporting. But, Chair, my concern is that we are not sure whether this law has put other safeguards to ensure that a businessman in Siaya will be given this guarantee scheme. What about if, for instance, we wait for the reports and the CS says we did not get businessmen from Kisumu, from Siaya, to partake of this credit scheme? So I think that needs to come out in this law so that we are sure that everybody was given an opportunity to benefit from this scheme. I think this is something that I think some members are concerned about. And I don't think it's very clear in the bill. Thank you, but I support.
We must make progress now, honorable members. I now put the question that clause 5 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 5 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Title. I propose a question that the title be the title of the bill. There are no amendments to that. I therefore put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Clause 1. I propose a question that clause 1 be part of the bill. There are no amendments to that. I therefore put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? Aye. The ayes have it. Honorable members, you are done with the bill. Congratulations on Abuanga.
Thank you.
You've been your first bill mover.
Thank you, sir.
The leader of majority party.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Public Finance Management Bill, number 2, the National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2020, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2020, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as are of that